Chapter 31:18. After all, Heavenly Supremacy Bao Tu still had to rely on Night Sorrow to take part in the selection competition organized by Lu Tian Academy. Even if Night Sorrow caused some trouble, he would cover it up for him. Night Sorrow, who knew what he was thinking, only wanted to return to Bao Tu City immediately. At this time, Bai Mei Sanren reminded him, "Brother Night Sorrow, I think Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi will definitely think of what we can think of. I'm afraid it's not a good idea for you to target Dreamy Cloud City, which is the nearest city. It's like this. But a Heavenly Supremacy is too fast. If we choose other cities, he will definitely catch up with us. We might as well risk it in Dreamy Cloud City." Yi Shang, who was under a lot of pressure, explained as he moved forward at top speed. "Is there anything we can do to help?" Chen Qingyun asked. "I don't think so. But I can let you guys out. After all, Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi has targeted me. You guys can find your own way to return to Bao Tu City." Night Sorrow continued. He believed that with the White Jade, Bai Mei Sanren could lead Chen Qingyun back to Bao Tu City. But at this time, Bai Mei Sanren rejected him. "Let's go through thick and thin together. If there's good stuff, we'll enjoy it. If we run when there's danger, what's the point of that?" "That's right. Although we don't have much power, we're definitely not afraid of death," Chen Qingyun said. He was not willing to leave Night Sorrow just to protect himself. Hearing this, Night Sorrow was very pleased and said, "All right. Then we'll run for our lives together. But I have to remind you, don't underestimate any Heavenly Supremacy. They are completely different from earthly supremacies and earthly supremacies. There's no way we can fight against them. Don't worry. At most, my soul will be destroyed. I have no regrets in life to be able to save my wife with your help," Chen Qingyun said with a smile. At this time, Night Sorrow used the power of merit to purify the fog on Chen Qingyun's wife, Xiaofan. It didn't take long for it to be purified. "Where am I?" Xiaofan, who had been purified, was similar to Chen Qingyun, who had just woken up. Both of them were in a daze. Then, his head began to swell with pain as he was assaulted by a large wave of memories. "Husband." When these memories settled down, Xiaofan immediately threw himself into Chen Qingyun's arms. She couldn't accept the reality in front of her. Their beautiful home had been destroyed and they had been enslaved for so many years. The reality was too cruel. "Fan, don't be sad. For us to be able to reunite is already the best arrangement." Chen Qingyun held Xiaofan in her arms and did not mention that they were being pursued by a Heavenly Supreme. He was afraid of destroying this rare peace. Seeing that the husband and wife had reunited, they did not say anything unnecessary and simply hugged each other. Peaceful and beautiful. Night Sorrow felt that he couldn't let Heavenly Cloud break Heavenly Supremacy ruin this beautiful moment. He immediately ignited the power of his bloodline and raised his strength to the maximum. When Night Sorrow arrived at the Dream Cloud City, Yunshi Heavenly Supremacy hadn't arrived yet. However, they discovered that the Dream Cloud City was already under martial law. One could only enter but not exit. Furthermore, the use of teleportation arrays had been banned. Clearly, this was an order from Yunshi Heavenly Supremacy. "What should we do? The teleportation array has been sealed. This is our only way out. Should we force our way in?" Realizing that the teleportation array had been banned, Bai Mei Sanren spoke. "There are no Heavenly Supremacies in the city, so there shouldn't be anyone who can stop me. We'll force our way in," Night Sorrow said and summoned the evil spirit clone and the chaotic Heavenly Crystal Beast without any hesitation. They rushed toward the teleportation array together. He knew that they couldn't afford to waste any time. There was no room for hesitation. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! After Night Sorrow appeared with his men, the cultivators in charge of guarding the teleportation array immediately informed the experts in the city to rush over. "There's only one half-step Heavenly Supreme. If we kill him quickly, we'll be able to rush to the teleportation array. Activate the teleportation array by force." As Night Sorrow spoke, he controlled the evil spirit clone and charged toward the half-step Heavenly Supreme in front of him. "How dare you! How dare you covet Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi's belongings? You've really grown 2 brains." The half-step Heavenly Supreme was called Yun Tu, and he was one of the 3 experts in Dream Cloud City. He held a sword and slashed at the evil spirit clone. However, the moment he attacked, he realized that the evil spirit clone's body was at the level of a heavenly supreme. He cursed inwardly. Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi hadn't warned him about this. He thought that the main person who escaped was an intermediate-level Heavenly Supreme who could contend with an Earth Supreme. Boom! Yun Tu's sword slashed at the evil spirit clone with a loud sound. However, it didn't cause much damage. On the contrary, the evil spirit clone used its strong body to grab the sword with its bare hands. Cold sweat broke out on Yun Tu's forehead when the divine weapon was caught. However, before he could react, Night Sorrow's attack had already arrived. On the surface, he was only an intermediate-level Heavenly Supreme, but in actual combat strength, he could already contend with a half-step Heavenly Supreme in the foggy area. The Azure Divine Spear technique was unleashed, and it immediately brought great pressure to Yun Tu. Why are they so strong? Facing Night Sorrow and the evil spirit clone's attacks, Yun Tu was a little flustered. He immediately gave up on his sword and fled. Let's enter the teleportation portal. Night Sorrow, who didn't want to waste time with him, immediately flew onto the teleportation portal when he saw Yun Tu dodge. He also summoned the Chaos Heavenly Crystal Beast that could fight against some Earth Supremacies. He directly activated the teleportation portal with the Black Thorn Crystal. Oh no! Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi has already left Dream Cloud City. He should have reached the next city, Cloud Heaven City. Unable to stop Night Sorrow, Yun Tu anxiously delivered the ship to Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi. Trash. You are all trash. None of you are of great use. Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi quickly sent a voice transmission over and scolded Yun Tu. At the same time, Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi teleported directly to Cloud Heaven City from the Yunshi mining area. He could also sense Night Sorrow's aura appearing in Cloud Heaven City. However, by the time Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi arrived at Cloud Heaven City, Night Sorrow had already teleported away again. This time, Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi sensed and discovered that Night Sorrow and the others had actually teleported to his headquarters, Cloud Heaven City. Despicable ants! Heavenly Supremacy Yunshi, who was completely enraged, knew that even if he returned to Cloud Heaven City, he definitely wouldn't be able to make it in time. Therefore, he stopped chasing Night Sorrow and took out the map to study it. He was prepared to calculate the city they would appear in. In front of the teleportation portal, he waited for Night Sorrow and the others to appear. As long as he could meet them, he was 100% confident that he could kill Night Sorrow directly. Retrieve the mutated Blackthorn Crystal Vein. Clan M. Chapter 31:19. After all, in the history of the Fog Zone, no supremacy or Earth Supremacy had ever defeated a Heavenly Supremacy. He was 100% confident in himself. Heavenly Supremacy Cloudy Breath had chosen to wait in a city called Pingyao City. It was a place one had to pass through to leave Cloudy Breath territory. He judged that Night Sorrow would definitely appear here if he wanted to leave through teleportation. And that was the truth. If Night Sorrow and the rest wanted to return to Bao Tu City, they had to use the teleportation array in Pingyao City. Otherwise, they would have to pass through a famous and dangerous place called the Demon Fall Battlefield before reaching the next city and continuing to use the teleportation array. No one knew when the Demon Fall Battlefield was created. It was very evil. Even Heavenly Supremacies who entered the Fog Zone would find it difficult to come out, so no one dared to enter. When Night Sorrow approached Pingyao City, Chen Qingyun's wife, Yang Fan, briefly explained the Demon Fall Battlefield to him. After listening to her explanation, Night Sorrow looked at Pingyao City and said, "If I'm not wrong, Heavenly Supremacy Cloudy Breath is very likely waiting for us in the city ahead. I don't know how far away the mark he planted is. Can he sense us?" The environment outside Pingyao City is very special. It can block perception. Heavenly Supremacy Cloudy Breath shouldn't be able to track us. But once we enter the city, we should be exposed. Chen Qingyun's wife, Yang Fan, quickly analyzed. She had heard many people mention some things in the vicinity in the Cloudy Breath mining area, so she knew a little. After Yang Fan finished speaking, Night Sorrow said, "If that's the case, then there are two paths we can take. We definitely can't enter Pingyao City. We can either contact Heavenly Supremacy Bao Tu or pass through the Demon Fall Battlefield. The Demon Fall Battlefield is too dangerous. Let's try to contact Heavenly Supremacy Bao Tu and ask him to come over," Bai Mei Sanren said. Yongfan's description had traumatized him a lot about the Demon Fall battlefield. He didn't want to get involved. I'll try to contact him. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he used the voice transmission jade that Heavenly Supremacy Bao 2 had left for him. However, there was no response even after 20 breaths. Night Sorrow frowned. It seems that the surroundings can not only block Heavenly Supremacy Cloudy Breath's perception. It also blocked the sound transmission stone. Paragon Bao Tutian shouldn't be able to receive my message. That's not good. Why don't we leave this area and go somewhere where we can contact Paragon Bao Tutian? After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Chen Qingyun asked doubtfully. The Devil Fall battlefield was too much of a deterrent for them. No one wanted to enter it. Alright. After all, the Devil Fall battlefield is a place of death that no one is willing to enter. Night Sorrow said as he activated the Sea Serpent's Eye and walked in the direction he had come from. However, as he walked, Night Sorrow realized that something was wrong. Even he could not determine the direction. After walking for a while, Night Sorrow realized that this area was not as simple as it seemed. However, it was already too late. He could only lead the group and walk forward aimlessly. Are we going to enter the Demon Fall battlefield? Realizing that Night Sorrow could no longer identify the direction, Chen Qingyun asked doubtfully. Hearing that, Night Sorrow smiled helplessly and said, "Things are out of control now. It's fine if we can enter the Demon Fall battlefield, but if we can't, I'm afraid we'll be trapped here." Sigh. What an unlucky year. Bai Mei Sanren sighed and continued, "If you really can't find the way forward, Brother Night Sorrow, why don't you just stay here and cultivate? Paragon Yunshi can't catch up with us here anyway. The problem now is that I want to enter the Killer Heaven Academy. If we spend too much time here, I'm afraid we'll delay the Killer Heaven Academy's qualifiers." Night Sorrow said. He wanted to enter the Killer Heaven Academy to find a suitable body for supreme longevity. If he could find it, the Eternal Supreme World would have another Supreme Realm expert. This was too important. He could not miss it. That's true. If there's no other way, we'll look for the entrance to the Devil Fall battlefield. It's better than being trapped here forever. Bai Mei Sanren said after listening to Night Sorrow. At that moment, Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Little Seven. Little Seven, if I want to cultivate, do you think I can completely absorb the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein in a short time? Hearing Night Sorrow's question, Little Seven said, "The best use of the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein is to refine a heavenly artifact. If you insist on using it for cultivation, it's best not to use it directly. Instead, absorb it into your body and use it as a trump card." Use it as a trump card? Night Sorrow asked doubtfully. Yes. Refine it directly and turn it into something similar to a divine artifact. According to my estimation, if you can successfully refine it, it'll be equivalent to having another heavenly artifact. Little Seven explained slowly. As for the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein in front of him, he had no intention of absorbing it himself, because to Little Seven, finding Little Eight was the fastest way to increase his strength. Okay. Then I'll try to refine it now. After all, if we enter the Demon Fall battlefield, we'll need some life-saving means. Night Sorrow said and asked Little Seven to cooperate with him and help him refine the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein. Just like that, 18 years had passed. After 18 years, Night Sorrow successfully refined the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein. He made it work with him. After the mutated Blackthorn crystal vein was refined, Night Sorrow summoned it again. It was almost equivalent to having another heavenly artifact Black Dragon as a helper. Although the Blackthorn crystal vein's intelligence had been completely destroyed, under the control of Night Sorrow's godly soul, it could still unleash powerful attacks. It was even stronger than the evil spirit doppelganger. Because the Blackthorn crystal vein itself contained endless energy, while the evil spirit doppelganger was only a heavenly artifact body. We can enter the Demon Fall battlefield now. It's best if we can leave within 10 years. After all, the time limit agreed with Heavenly Artifact Bao 2 is 30 years. Night Sorrow said and continued, "At the latest, we have to leave within 100 years. After all, the selection of Heavenly Artifact Academy will be held more than 100 years later." Okay. "We'll do our best to help you," Bai Mei Sanren said. Night Sorrow's strength was constantly improving, and the gap between them was getting wider and wider. This made Bai Mei Sanren feel a little helpless. As for Chen Qingyun and Yang Fan, there was nothing he could do. Don't worry. I'll grow with everyone. Night Sorrow knew what everyone was thinking. After saying that, he began to look for the entrance to the Demon Fall battlefield. After wandering in the fog for about a year, they finally entered the Demon Fall battlefield. As soon as they entered the Demon Fall battlefield, Night Sorrow and the rest found themselves in front of an opening. There was no fog in the Demon Fall battlefield, but there was a murderous aura that made people tremble in fear, flowing in the wind. It made people tremble with fear. Clan M. Chapter 31-20. This Devilfall battlefield is a bit chilling. If an ordinary supreme being were to come here, they would probably go crazy. Bai Mei Sanren, who had been summoned by Night Sorrow from the Space Grotto Heaven, started to tremble as soon as he came out. Although there was no fog here, the murderous aura made him feel suffocated. His voice was trembling as he said this. The murderous aura is indeed very strong. Countless cultivators must have fallen here. If one's temperament is not strong enough, fighting in this environment will probably affect them greatly. Night Sorrow said and walked side by side with Bai Mei Sanren. At this time, he opened the sea serpent's eye and kept observing everything around him. This Demon Fall battlefield was full of broken walls and ruins. These collapsed buildings had experienced countless years of wind, frost, rain, and snow, and their original appearance could not be seen. In contrast, many of the corpses on the ruins were more well preserved. Although some of the cultivators had fallen many years ago, the flesh and blood on their bodies had not dissipated, but they were somewhat shriveled. They looked like dried corpses. The clothes worn by these dried corpses had long been blown out of shape by the wind and were scattered like rags. Some of the divine weapons scattered on the ground had long lost their spirituality and turned into ordinary iron. Desolation. Desolation. Night Sorrow and Bai Mei Sanren walked in the ruins for 2 days and 2 nights, and this was what they felt. On the 3rd day, the two were still walking in the ruins. Bai Mei Sanren said, "If this area is like this, no matter how big it is, we should be able to fly out within 10 years. It's just a battlefield. It shouldn't be so big that we can't fly out. Rumor has it that even heavenly supreme beings can't get out. I don't think this place is that simple." Night Sorrow kept using the sea serpent's eye to observe the surroundings, but he could not see anything. It was precisely because he couldn't see anything that he was deeply worried. Analyzing some of the formations on the battlefield might be beyond his field of vision. While Yishang was pondering with a frown, Wanderer Whitebrow's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, "Younger brother Yishang, look! There seems to be an undamaged divine artifact in front of us." An undamaged divine artifact? When Yishang heard this, he looked over and saw an undamaged spear that was glowing with light. This long spear was silver-white in color, and there were 9 coiling dragons on the spear, which looked very lifelike. It was the same with the eyes of the divine dragon. The long spear was not occupied by the fog at all. It was impossible to see the evil aura on the spear. However, this long spear was filled with killing intent. Is this a heavenly supreme level divine artifact? While Night Sorrow was observing the spear, Bai Mei Sanren continued. Although he had once been a heavenly sovereign, he could not determine the grade of the spear in front of him with his current realm. Night Sorrow, who was observing, said softly, "I'm afraid it's more than that. I think it's very likely to be a half-step to the supreme realm. Otherwise, it shouldn't be able to survive so easily in this Demon Fall battlefield until now." In fact, he could not observe the grade of this silver spear and could only guess based on his feelings. At this moment, Little Seven suddenly said, "You're right. It's a half-step to the supreme realm divine artifact. Don't look anymore. Stay away from it. Let's go around it. This silver spear's killing intent is too strong. If we're too close, we might be attacked. We can't withstand the attack of a half-step to the supreme realm." "Okay. Then let's go around it," Night Sorrow said, then said to Bai Mei Sanren, "Brother, let's go around it." But at this moment, Night Sorrow was surprised to find that Bai Mei Sanren had already rushed out and was flying toward the silver spear. "Brother, stop." Seeing Bai Mei Sanren flying toward the silver spear, Night Sorrow immediately roared. He used his movement technique and chased after him. Usually, Night Sorrow's speed was much faster than Bai Mei Sanren's, But at this moment, he felt like he could not catch up. What's going on? Knight Sorrow chased after him, but Bai Mei Sanren was flying toward the silver spear like a madman. You're courting death. How dare you offend me? At this moment, the 9 coiling dragons on the silver spear all flew out. They directly attacked Bai Mei Sanren. That intense murderous aura immediately pressured the surrounding space to the point that it changed shape. What's going on? Under such circumstances, Bai Mei Sanren suddenly recovered. He did not understand what had happened. Why did he suddenly appear here? Brother, be careful. At this moment, Knight Sorrow suddenly caught up and summoned the black thorn crystal. The black dragon appeared and immediately fought with the 9 coiling dragons. At this moment, while Knight Sorrow was helping, he explained to Bai Mei Sanren what had happened. He also asked, Brother, what happened to you just now? Just now, a thought suddenly appeared in my mind. I had to get the silver spear, so I lost control and rushed out. White-browed wanderer thought for a moment and then confirmed, This is definitely not my own idea. Things are a little strange. There might be other existences around. Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice to Bai Mei Sanren while observing the surroundings. At this moment, the black dragon was fighting against the 9 coiling dragons and was not at a disadvantage. It was extremely valiant. This kind of combat power should be at the level of a heavenly supreme, even stronger than Knight Sorrow himself. However, after fighting for a while, a thought appeared in Knight Sorrow's mind, and that was to charge forward and self-destruct to kill the 9 coiling dragons. This thought became stronger and stronger. In the end, Knight Sorrow could not suppress it anymore. Something's not right. Just as he was about to lose control, Knight Sorrow suddenly used the power of merit. To protect himself. This murderous and evil thought also disappeared without a trace. At this moment, the battle between the black dragon and the 9 coiling dragons had reached its climax. Stop! This is a misunderstanding. Our minds are being controlled. Knight Sorrow shouted at the silver spear as he summoned the black dragon back. The 9 coiling dragons originally wanted to chase after him, but at this moment, the silver spear's weapon spirit suddenly said, Hey Yenhu, come out! After the silver spear's weapon spirit spoke, the 9 coiling dragons suddenly flew back. However, the silver spear's weapon spirit called out to Hei Yenhu, but there was no response from the void. At this moment, Knight Sorrow, who had completely activated the power of merit, felt that the silver spear's weapon spirit had withdrawn its hostility towards him. You are not a creature of the fog. Why did you disguise yourself as them? Hei Yenhu did not appear, so the silver spear's weapon spirit suddenly looked at Knight Sorrow and asked, I came from the eternal supreme realm, and I came to the fog to improve my strength. Naturally, I had to disguise myself as them. Knight Sorrow explained. He could feel that the silver spear's weapon spirit did not come from the fog. Clan M. Chapter 31-21. Also, the silver spear had an aura that was very similar to the eternal supreme realm. Knight Sorrow concluded that the enemy must have been dispelled because he released the power of merit and restrained the aura of the foggy area. Since you're not from the foggy area, you're not my enemy. The spirit of the silver spear continued. Just now, you must have been bewitched by Hei Yenhu. That's why you suddenly charged at me. Knight Sorrow looked at the silver spear and asked, Hei Yenhu? What is that? Hei Yenhu is Mie's battle pet countless years ago. It's half a step away from the supreme realm. However, it's best at ambushing and bewitching. We've been trapped here for countless years and it has ambushed me countless times. However, it failed every time. The spirit of the silver spear said disdainfully. It did not have a good impression of Hei Yenhu at all. You can fight Mie's battle pet and not be at a disadvantage. So, are you a divine artifact refined by some big shot? Knight Sorrow put Bai Mei Sanren, who was not in good condition, into the space and continued to ask. At that moment, Bai Mei Sanren had suffered a severe backlash after being bewitched by Hei Yenhu. He was a bit weak and could no longer stay outside. My name is the Coiling Dragon Spear, Yen Heng's natal divine artifact. At its peak, it was an ultimate divine artifact, but it was damaged in the battle later. Now, it's half a step away from the supreme realm. The Coiling Dragon Spear was very proud when it said Yen Heng's name. Senior Yen Heng's natal divine artifact. Knight Sorrow was surprised when he heard the coiling dragon spear say that. The wounded Bai Mei Sanren, on the other hand, was confused. After a moment of silence, he asked in confusion, I'm also someone who experienced the past. Why haven't I heard that Yen Hang had a natal divine artifact called the coiling dragon spear? I don't remember him having a natal divine artifact. If he did have one, it would be his own body. Ahem. Well, you might not know about some things back then. Hearing Bai Mei Sanren's words, the coiling dragon spear felt a little awkward. In reality, even though it had been personally refined by Yen Hang and was once a paramount divine artifact, it really wasn't Yen Hang's personal divine artifact. Yen Hengshi used his own body as a divine artifact to fight against the heavens and the earth. In the end, he died in the misty area. He didn't have a natal divine artifact on him. Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. It's all in the past. Knight Sorrow saw that the coiling dragon spear was a little embarrassed, so he immediately changed the topic. Why didn't you choose to leave when you were trapped here? I don't see anything here that can trap you. This battlefield really can't trap me. But that He Yenhu was extremely detestable. You've been restraining me all this while. The coiling dragon spear explained in a resigned manner before continuing, even though it's no match for me, there's no way I'll be able to leave this place. You are the divine artifact of Senior Yen Heng, so you can be considered as our senior. I wonder if we can help you? Knight Sorrow said slowly. The coiling dragon spear was a divine artifact refined by Yen Heng. If it could be restored to its peak, it might be of great use in future battles. With your strength, I'm afraid it won't be of much use if you want to participate in a battle at our level. The weapon spirit of the coiling dragon spear looked at Knight Sorrow and said, however, if you can break through to the Heavenly Supreme level, with the help of the power of merit, you should be able to help me get rid of He Yenhu once and for all. Senior Coiling Dragon, you must have experienced the last great calamity. To be honest, in about 10,000 years, the Misty Area will once again launch an attack on the Eternal Supreme World. Time is too tight. I don't know when I'll break through to the Heavenly Supreme level. By then it might be too late. Why don't we try now and see if we can leave this battlefield under He Yenhu's interference? If we want to leave this place successfully, we need to break through the battlefield's array core. I can't do it alone under He Yenhu's interference. If you help me hold He Yenhu back, are you sure you can last for 100 breaths of time? When the coiling dragon spear heard that the Misty Area was about to launch another massacre, its tone suddenly changed. However, with He Yenhu holding it back, it was indeed difficult for it to leave the battlefield. Hearing the coiling dragon spear's words, Knight Sorrow continued. Senior Coiling Dragon Spear, your strength is stronger than He Yenhu's. Why don't you tell me how to break the array? I'll break the array, and you can hold He Yenhu back. It's easier said than done to break the array in front of you. You're just a Middle Earthly Sovereign. Even a Middle Earthly Sovereign wouldn't be able to do it. This is because you can't withstand the attack of the array. The attack of the array core is at the level of a Heavenly Supreme. How are you going to withstand it? After Knight Sorrow finished speaking, the coiling dragon spear in human form shook its head. Speaking of which, Knight Sorrow's realm was still too low. Believe in Knight Sorrow. He can do it. And I'll help him. At this time, Little Seven, who was in the space cave, suddenly spoke. In fact, after Little Seven had released the blackthorn crystal vein, it had fallen into a deep sleep. Otherwise, it would have spoken long ago, because it had encountered the coiling dragon spear before. It's you. Seeing Little Seven appear, the coiling dragon spear immediately said excitedly. After countless years, seeing an old acquaintance made it feel very different. It's me. Not only me, but my two brothers as well. Little Seven said and asked Knight Sorrow to release it, Little Five, and Little Nine. It was prepared to gather the power of the three towers to help Knight Sorrow break the array. With the help of the three of you, the hope is much greater. However, his strength is still too weak. When the coiling dragon spear saw Little Seven, it naturally chose to trust it. However, it still ridiculed Knight Sorrow's realm. Senior, although my realm is low, the blackthorn crystal vein in my body has the combat power of a Heavenly Supreme. The evil spirit clone that I control also has the strength of a Heavenly Supreme. When the black dragon blocks the attack, I'll use the evil spirit clone to receive it. Who knows, we might be able to successfully resist the attack of the Erase core. Knight Sorrow knew that the attack of the Erase core was definitely not simple. However, he really did not want to be trapped in this array forever. It would delay 10,000 years of cultivation time. Therefore, he wanted to try his best. According to what you said, there is some possibility. However, your strength is too low. How about this? I'll give you some laws and essence. Try to absorb them. Strive to advance to upper supremacy as soon as possible. Or peak supremacy. Or even try to break through to Earth Supreme. This way you can increase your chances. As the coiling dragon spear spoke, it shot some laws and essence at Knight Sorrow. These came from the coiling dragon spear itself and were much more precious than ordinary heavenly supreme laws and essence. Senior, don't worry. I will try my best to increase my strength as quickly as possible. At this moment, Knight Sorrow did not delay at all and started to cultivate on the spot. He believed that the coiling dragon spear could resist He Yenhu and not let him interfere with his cultivation. Clan M. Chapter 31-22. That was the truth. While Knight Sorrow was cultivating, He Yenhu had been waiting for an opportunity to attack Knight Sorrow. However, the coiling dragon spear had successfully blocked all of them. After all, it was slightly stronger than He Yenhu. As for the aftermath of some of the attacks to Knight Sorrow, they could only be considered as a test and were not fatal. As time passed, Knight Sorrow gradually adapted to cultivating under a certain degree of interference. And the laws and essence provided by the coiling dragon spear was indeed the first good thing he had come into contact with in his life. These laws and essence contained a trace of extreme intent. It was a very subtle feeling. Although limited by his realm, Knight Sorrow could not fully comprehend it. However, it had an indescribable effect on his realm. As expected, my cultivation is still a little too low. If I were an Earth Sovereign now, I should be able to comprehend the essence. Knight Sorrow pondered for a while and made his own judgment in his heart. At this moment, he was too far away from the extreme realm. However, through the things in front of him, he gained a lot of confidence. His talent was enough. What he lacked was only time. Not bad. His comprehension is very good. He should be able to advance to an upper sovereign in 3 to 5 years. Such talent is already not inferior to anyone. While guarding Knight Sorrow, the coiling dragon spear made its own judgment. In fact, letting Knight Sorrow use its own laws and essence to cultivate was also a test for Knight Sorrow. If Knight Sorrow's talent was not enough, there was no way he could use these laws and essence to improve his strength. His performance at this moment made the coiling dragon spear somewhat impressed. With its vision, it could see that Knight Sorrow's future was limitless. Thinking of the great calamity that was about to befall the eternal supreme world, there were more thoughts in the coiling dragon spear's mind. Knight Sorrow was not clear about some of the thoughts of the coiling dragon spear's weapon spirit. He was completely immersed in cultivation. After arriving at the eternal supreme world, he realized that his past glory was basically left in the divine world. Even the taboo attribute that was once a trump card was not surprising at all in the eternal supreme world. However, he did not lack the courage to start all over again. In this predicament, he would strive to catch up, climbing step by step towards the heights of the strong. Done. Upper supremacy. During his cultivation, Knight Sorrow's state of mind had always been very tenacious. In the end, He Yenhu's interference had become more and more serious. But Knight Sorrow was not moved at all when he thought about how difficult it had been to come this far. With a heart as firm as a boulder, he successfully absorbed the laws and essence bestowed by the coiling dragon spear, advancing to the level of upper supremacy. After overcoming the lightning tribulation, Knight Sorrow had successfully advanced to the next level. At this time, the coiling dragon spear looked at Knight Sorrow and asked, "Can you advance to half-step earthly sovereign in one go? I have enough laws and essences here." "I can, but there's no need for that. It will take a few decades for me to advance to half-step to earthly sovereign, but there is no qualitative improvement to my strength." Knight Sorrow explained and continued, "What I need now is not cultivation." Instead, he was researching the usage of the Blackthorn crystal vein and the evil spirit doppelganger. After all, they will play a very important role in the process of breaking the formation. Actually, a few decades is not a long time. You can advance to half-step to earthly sovereign first, Then study the blackthorn crystal vein and the evil spirit doppelganger. After Knight Sorrow finished his explanation, the coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit continued. It felt that a few decades was nothing at all. At this time, Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice. But I have other things to do. To tell you the truth, in 100 years, I will find a way to enter the Wuxia Academy and find a suitable body for a senior in the Eternal Supremacy world. Because of his body, his realm is stuck at the level of Heavenly Sovereign, unable to advance any further. There is such a peerless genius in the Eternal Supremacy world? Hearing this, the coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit immediately perked up. He pondered for a moment and said, "Tell me the specific situation, and I will see if I can help. If the Eternal Supremacy world can have one more supreme expert, the situation will be greatly improved." At this time, it knew that Yen Hengshi had fallen, and the only high-end combat power left in the Eternal Supremacy world was Yen. Therefore, when it heard this, it was rather excited. It's like this. Knight Sorrow did not hide anything and told it about supreme longevity. Although he promised supreme longevity that he would not reveal it, he felt that it should be fine to tell the coiling dragon spear. After all, it was the divine weapon of a predecessor of the Eternal Supremacy world. Bastard! The Eternal Supremacy world is now in the hands of those scum. How infuriating! They can't be the descendants of those evil creatures, right? He waited for Yi Shang to explain the entire situation. The coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit felt extremely regretful. According to Knight Sorrow, Supreme Longevity's advancement to the Supreme Realm was basically a done deal. But it was crippled by the people of the Eternal Supremacy world. How could it not be angry? Senior, it's useless to be angry and regretful now. What we can do is to forge forward and do our best to do the things in the future. Knight Sorrow felt that the murderous aura around the coiling dragon spear was a little heavy, and immediately comforted it. At the same time, he used the power of merit to surround it. He felt that the murderous aura of the coiling dragon spear was a little evil, and it should have something to do with the foggy environment of the Demonfall battlefield. To tell you the truth, I am extremely violent in the current environment. Your power of merit is very good. It can help me control my murderous aura. Thank you. The coiling dragon spear, which was surrounded by the power of merit, immediately recovered from its state of explosion. He spoke gratefully. Senior, you are too polite. We are all the hope of the Eternal Supremacy world. Naturally, we should take care of each other. Knight Sorrow did not put himself too low. He knew his own value. The coiling dragon spear did not refute Knight Sorrow's words. It continued, "What you just said does have a possibility of success. But a body with such talent is something that can only be found by chance. If there is, it will definitely be guarded by those three existences. It will definitely not be easy to get it." Yes, the road ahead is definitely not easy, but we can't give up hope because of this. Knight Sorrow said sonorously, and then continued, "Senior, I will go into seclusion for a period of time. When I come out, we will leave this damned place together. As for the next step, we will study it again. You go into seclusion. I will protect you again." The artifact spirit of the coiling dragon spear said and set up another array formation to protect Yi Shang. As for Knight Sorrow, he took a step forward in his research on the blackthorn crystal vein and the demonic spirit doppelganger. About 10 years later, Knight Sorrow successfully came out of seclusion. He looked at the coiling dragon spear and said, "Senior, we can try to break the formation." Chapter 31-23. Oh. Are you confident that you can withstand the attack of a heavenly supreme? The coiling dragon spear asked doubtfully. Yi Shang's tone sounded very confident. However, the coiling dragon spear felt that it was impossible for an upper earthly supreme to withstand the attack of a heavenly supreme. Knight Sorrow said, "Senior, I have completely merged the blackthorn crystal vein and the evil spirit doppelganger together to form a new doppelganger. I have also nourished it with the power of merit. Its strength has increased by a lot compared to before the merger. I will hide in the doppelganger and should be able to withstand the attack of a heavenly supreme for a while. However, I will definitely not be able to withstand He Yanhu's attack. He Yanhu's attack will naturally be blocked by me. When you are cultivating, he will not be able to disturb you. When you are breaking the formation, it will be even easier. The coiling dragon spear's weapon spirit said confidently and continued, I will teach you the method of breaking the formation completely. Comprehend it well. We will try to succeed once. Leave this god-forsaken place. All right. Senior, you may begin. Knight Sorrow said and began to comprehend the method of breaking the formation that the coiling dragon spear had taught him. Soon, he had mastered it completely. After completely mastering the method of breaking the formation, Knight Sorrow gathered his thoughts and said, Senior, we may begin. At this moment, the coiling dragon spear suddenly said, Not yet. You are not prepared enough. Am I not prepared enough? Knight Sorrow asked doubtfully. As far as he was concerned, all the preparations were complete. Although your doppelganger is not bad, it is best to wear defensive equipment. That way, it can withstand the attack of the formation for a while longer. The coiling dragon spear said slowly. Indeed, as it said, although Knight Sorrow's doppelganger looked good, it was completely naked. That is the case, but there shouldn't be any suitable defensive equipment in the Devilfall battlefield, right? Knight Sorrow said as he recalled some of the scenes when he entered the Devilfall battlefield. He felt that in this battlefield, even heavenly supreme level items should have been completely destroyed. Only existences like the coiling dragon spear and Hei Yanhu could survive until now. After all, the environment of the Devilfall battlefield was too harsh. Even the foggy area could not compare to it. You're right. There's nothing else in the Devilfall battlefield. This was because the other existences, including the survivors of the divine weapon, had already been devoured by the Black Yanhu. However, we can forge our own defensive divine artifacts. After saying this, the coiling dragon spear transformed back into a silver spear. Then he made the 9 dragons spit out pearls. Knight Sorrow observed with a sea serpent's eye, and immediately saw that the pearls spat out by the 9 dragons were heavenly supreme level materials. At this time, he said with some uncertainty, Senior, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for me to control heavenly supreme level materials. It can't be used to refine weapons. Don't worry, you won't be able to handle ordinary heavenly supreme materials. But I was the one who brewed it. You can control it as you wish. The coiling dragon spear said and allowed Knight Sorrow to establish a mental connection with the 9 dragon balls. After this connection was successfully established, Knight Sorrow immediately felt that he and the 9 dragon balls were one. Then, he easily began to forge the heavenly supreme artifact. Not long after, he successfully refined the 9 dragon balls into the 9 dragons' defensive armor and put it on the newly merged clone. Very good. We can begin to break the formation. After Knight Sorrow put on the 9 dragons' defensive armor for the clone, the coiling dragon spear said with satisfaction. But this 9 dragons' defensive armor doesn't seem to have attracted the lightning tribulation? Knight Sorrow said with some confusion. He felt that he had successfully refined the materials in front of him into a heavenly supreme level defensive divine artifact. This should attract the lightning tribulation. Only by leaving the Devilfall battlefield can you attract the lightning tribulation. Logically speaking, it'll be very difficult for you to withstand this level of lightning tribulation. But I'll help you. So, you don't have to worry. After the coiling dragon spear finished speaking, it led Knight Sorrow to the location of the formation. On the way, Knight Sorrow said doubtfully, that Black Yanhu seems to have been a little honest in recent decades. Is it brewing some conspiracy? Now that you mention it, I also feel that it's a little strange. But don't worry about it. It doesn't have much ability. The coiling dragon spear said indifferently and continued to lead Knight Sorrow to the center of the formation. This formation was indeed mysterious. Using the sea serpent's eye to observe the formation in front of him, Knight Sorrow praised. The level of complexity of the formation in front of him was not something he could set up. If the coiling dragon spear had not told him the method to break the formation, he would not have been able to break it himself. All right. Go break the formation immediately. If Black Yanhu appears, I'll block it. Standing in front of the formation and observing for a while, the coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit said when it did not see Black Yanhu. All right. I'll go break the formation immediately. After Knight Sorrow finished speaking, he flew toward the center of the formation. Danger! At that moment, the coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit suddenly shouted. What's going on? Knight Sorrow turned around in confusion. All of a sudden, He Yanhu appeared behind him and struck him with a ferocious palm. Although Black Yanhu was not a match for the coiling dragon spear, he was still a half-step heavenly supreme existence. His attack was not something that Night Sorrow could withstand. Immediately, Night Sorrow, who was hiding in the clone, wanted to use his movement technique to dodge. However, Black Yanhu, who appeared out of thin air, was too fast. Not only was the coiling dragon spear unable to help in time, but Night Sorrow could not dodge at all. With a boom, Black Yanhu's claw slapped directly on Night Sorrow's clone. Night Sorrow was immediately sent flying. The 9 dragons' defensive armor on his clone was directly shattered. His doppelganger also had several visible cracks on it. It was a ghastly sight. Fortunately, Black Yanhu's power was neutralized by the armor and clone. Night Sorrow did not suffer too serious of an impact. Therefore, he only suffered light injuries. Haha. I've long predicted that you would appear here. That's why I waited here. Now, the armor is broken. Now that cracks have appeared on my clone, I'd like to see how an ant can break the array. After successfully shattering the armor, He Yanhu immediately let out an arrogant laugh. He then attacked Night Sorrow again. Fortunately, the coiling dragon spear reacted at that moment and blocked the attack. It successfully blocked Black Yanhu. Then, it sent a telepathic message, "I didn't think this through. How are you?" Although cracks have appeared on my clone, it still has a certain amount of defensive power. Although the armor is completely broken, I can still give it a try. Night Sorrow made a judgment and replied, "What? After being attacked by Black Yanhu, you still have a chance of breaking the array?" The coiling dragon spear asked in disbelief. "I can try my best, but I'm not sure if I can succeed." Night Sorrow replied and entered the array's core. Chapter 31-24. All right. If you can't withstand the attack of the formation's core, come out directly. After all, where there's life there's hope. He blocked He Yanhu's coiling dragon spear and transmitted his voice. Enraged, he began to fight and soon suppressed He Yanhu. However, he could not cause any actual damage to He Yanhu. Both sides quickly entered a stalemate. Neither could do anything to the other. At this moment, He Yanhu said smugly, "You and I have fought for so many years, don't you know that I can hide in the void? What a brainless weapon." Humph. What do you know? When the heavens are about to give a great responsibility to man, it must first torment his mind, tire his muscles and bones, and starve his body. This is my way of training him. After He Yanhu finished speaking, the coiling dragon spear's artifact spirit said. He believed that the fragrance of plum blossoms came from the bitter cold, and the blade of a treasure was sharpened. Therefore, he deliberately left a chance for He Yanhu to attack. He believed that if Night Sorrow was real gold, then he would not be afraid of being refined by fire. You really know how to comfort yourself. When He Yanhu heard the coiling dragon spear say that, he immediately mocked in disdain. Then he fought with him again. The coiling dragon spear laughed and said, "You don't understand at all." "I understand now. You think that this ant in front of you can advance to the supreme realm. Haha, what a joke, what a joke." At this moment, He Yanhu suddenly understood the coiling dragon spear's idea and mocked him again. While they were fighting, Night Sorrow had completely entered the core of the formation. Just as he entered the core of the formation, he was attacked by the formation. Every attack of the formation was at the level of a heavenly supreme. These attacks bombarded the clone and immediately caused extremely ferocious damage. It caused the cracks that were slowly recovering on the clone to split open again at a speed visible to the naked eye. As the cracks grew larger, the attacks from the formation had already penetrated inside. Being swept by an attack of this level, he felt his internal organs churning. However, he still persevered in breaking the formation. Step by step, there was no deviation. However, according to Night Sorrow's judgment, according to the current progress, he definitely could not successfully break the formation before the clone was completely destroyed. What should I do? Faced with a mission that was almost impossible to complete, Night Sorrow continued to break the array while thinking about what he should do. In your current situation, if you want to succeed in breaking the formation, you can only rely on the attacks in front of you to strengthen your body. I'll try my best to let you hold on a little longer. Otherwise, it's useless to say anything. At this moment, Little Five, who was in the space paradise, reminded him. The three of them wanted to help, but they simply did not have the ability to do so. The attacks of the formation before them were all at the level of heavenly sovereigns. If the three of them were to come out, they would probably be smashed to bits. They were of no help at all. But when he heard this, Knight Sorrow, who was closely involved, suddenly felt enlightened. Little Five, you're right. I must seize this opportunity to improve myself as soon as possible. After saying that, Knight Sorrow began to temper his body while breaking the array. Let his body grow in the midst of the attack. The feeling was similar to when he was tempering his body during the tribulation. However, although only a little of the attacks of heavenly sovereigns had penetrated his body, the intensity of the attacks was very high. If not for Knight Sorrow's strong will, he definitely would not have been able to withstand the feeling of tempering. Very good. This is the way to improve. Knight Sorrow, you will definitely succeed. Little Seven encouraged him while Knight Sorrow strengthened his body through the attacks. At this moment, they were bound together for good or ill. Naturally, they hoped that Knight Sorrow could succeed. Don't worry, I will try my best to persevere. As Knight Sorrow spoke, he continued to break the array, and the damage to his body began to worsen. Therefore, the attacks of heavenly sovereigns became even more terrifying. Good. After being baptized by such powerful attacks, Knight Sorrow's body was in extreme pain. But mentally he felt very carefree. He liked the feeling of fighting against the heavens and challenging his own limits. He didn't back down at all. But the cruelty of reality was definitely beyond anyone's imagination. Just as Knight Sorrow's body continued to improve, his clone suddenly shattered. A large number of heavenly sovereigns' attacks were all directed at Knight Sorrow. At this moment, the coiling dragon spear was still fighting with He Yenhu and could not divert any energy to save Knight Sorrow. What should we do? This is a hopeless situation. The moment the clone shattered, Little Five, Little Seven, and Little Nine all cried out in alarm. Knight Sorrow also realized that this might be the end of the world. However, he also knew that if he could not withstand the attacks of the heavenly sovereigns in front of him, then Bai Mei Sanren, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, Chen Qingyun and his wife, the restriction-breaking hammer, Little Five, Little Seven, Little Nine, and even the golden heavenly halberd would all die. He thought to himself, "No, I can't die like this." Then, he tried his best to summon the clone that had already collapsed and merged it into the Phoenix armor. It allowed the Phoenix armor's strength to increase by a level in an instant. After the Phoenix armor was completely activated, it immediately blocked many heavenly sovereigns' attacks. This allowed Knight Sorrow to continue breaking the formation. However, this was only a temporary solution to the crisis. It was still not enough to support him to completely break the formation. Under such circumstances, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast suddenly woke up and sent a voice transmission to Knight Sorrow. "I'll help you block the attacks, you break the formation. But you need to be faster. Are you sure you can do it?" Knight Sorrow sensed and found that the chaotic heavenly crystal beast already had the strength of a middle earthly sovereign. However, he was not sure if he could withstand the attacks of a heavenly sovereign. "Although I can't hold on for long, I'm definitely stronger than you. After all, our realms are still there," the chaotic heavenly crystal beast said and came out of Knight Sorrow's space to help Knight Sorrow resist the attacks in front of him. With its cooperation, Knight Sorrow finally succeeded in breaking the formation. Following that, the attacks that covered the sky and earth came to an end. At that moment, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast was seriously injured. Although it had advanced to the level of a middle earthly sovereign, the attacks of a heavenly sovereign were obviously beyond its endurance. Therefore, as soon as Knight Sorrow succeeded in breaking the formation, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast once again entered his space to recuperate. As for Little Five, Little Seven, and the others, they were a little scared and felt that today was indeed a little dangerous. At this time, the battle between the coiling dragon spear and He Yenhu had reached a climax. Seeing that Knight Sorrow had successfully broken the formation, he roared excitedly, "I'll take you away." He put away the heavily injured Knight Sorrow and took him away from the Demon Fall battlefield. However, He Yenhu also followed him out of the battlefield. Chapter 31-25. He Yenhu left the Demon Fall battlefield and searched around, but he did not find Knight Sorrow or the coiling dragon spear. In the end, he flew straight into the void and went somewhere unknown. As for the coiling dragon spear that took Night Sorrow away, he immediately took Night Sorrow to find some natural treasures to help him recover from his injuries. After 5 to 6 years, Night Sorrow's injuries slowly recovered. As for the chaotic heavenly crystal beast in his space grotto heaven, it was still in a deep sleep because of its serious injuries. After recovering, Night Sorrow thanked the coiling dragon spear and said, "Senior, what do you plan to do in the future?" Speaking of which, the coiling dragon spear had the strength of a half-step heavenly supreme. Even in the fog, he was a decisive existence, second only to those supreme realm experts. An existence of this level was basically impossible to figure out. After Night Sorrow finished asking, the coiling dragon spear, who had already transformed into human form, thought for a moment and said, "Now that Yen Heng has fallen, I'm a little lost and don't know what path to take. If you don't have any ideas, why don't you come with me to the Slaughterer Academy and help that senior find a suitable body? When he breaks through to the Supreme Realm, we'll fight the fog together." Night Sorrow saw that the coiling dragon spear did not have any ideas and immediately said. Hearing this, the coiling dragon spear shook his head and said, "You can't go to the Slaughterer Academy. Because those 3 existences might appear in the Slaughterer Academy. Even if you can successfully enter, you have to be careful. If I appear there, I'll be seen through immediately. Then I'll help you return to the Eternal Supreme World?" Night Sorrow asked after the coiling dragon spear finished speaking. He felt that the coiling dragon spear would definitely be exposed if he stayed in the fog for a long time. If those 3 existences discovered him, what awaited him would be destruction. What's the current situation in the Eternal Supreme World? Is everyone united and preparing for the battle against the fog? The coiling dragon spear asked. Hearing this, Night Sorrow was speechless. The current Eternal Supreme World is divided into 10,000 realms, and these realms are basically a plate of loose sand. Most realms don't believe that a great calamity will come. Look at the time. How can they still be a plate of loose sand? How about this? You take me back to the Eternal Supreme World, and I'll go back and organize the situation. The coiling dragon spear looked at Night Sorrow and said, given his strength, there was indeed hope for him to unify the Eternal Supreme World. Good. Senior. I'll bring you to meet someone. Night Sorrow said, then took the coiling dragon spear and began to search for the way to the Eternal Supreme Realm. Using the teleportation formation in the foggy area, he quickly returned to the Eternal Supreme World and headed to the 9 Mysteries territory. When they arrived at the Jiuxian territory, they saw the Supreme Longevity. Night Sorrow immediately summoned the coiling dragon spear and said to Supreme Longevity, "This is Senior Coiling Dragon Spear, the divine weapon of the Yanhang clan." He currently possessed the strength of a half-step heavenly sovereign. He had come back to help integrate the Eternal Supreme World. At present, the creatures in the fog are eyeing us covetously. The Eternal Supreme World can't be a sheet of loose sand. Indeed. But with my current strength, I can't do that at all. With Senior Coiling Dragon Spear around, things should be easier. As for the grudges between me and them, let's write them off. Supreme Longevity nodded and said after listening to Night Sorrow. He would never forget the grudges of the past. Even after he had taken over the body, he had always wanted to take revenge. But in the face of the big picture, he was prepared to completely let go. Senior, you've suffered. Night Sorrow will do his best to help you find a suitable body. Night Sorrow said, then continued. Then I'll leave the integration of the Eternal Supreme World to the 2 of you. As for me, I'll return to the foggy area immediately. Good. You can go in peace. But remember to be careful. Supreme Longevity said as he took out a space ring and handed it to Night Sorrow. These are all heavenly sovereign rules and essences. Take them and use them there. Try to break through to the level of earthly sovereign as soon as possible. Speaking of which, your level is still too low. Yes. Senior. I'll work hard. Night Sorrow did not refuse. He took the space ring and left the 9 Mysteries world. As for the other matters, he left them to Supreme Longevity and the Coiling Dragon Spear. The integration of the Eternal Supreme World was difficult. However, Supreme Longevity had already controlled many territories. There was a chance of success. After Night Sorrow returned to the foggy area, he went straight to Baotu City. There were about 100 years before the Lu Tian Academy's selection. It was about the time they had agreed on. Haha. Little brother Night Devil, you've returned on time. I'm very happy. Seeing Night Sorrow's return, the governor of Baotu City heaved a sigh of relief. He then asked, "How's the matter of saving your friend?" His attitude was even more courteous than when Yishang had left. This was because another contestant from Baotu City had suddenly betrayed Baotu City a few years ago and joined the nearby Dark Hill City. Currently, Night Sorrow was the only contestant from Baotu City who could participate in the Lu Tian Academy selection. Night Sorrow could sense that something had happened. The governor of Baotu City had suddenly become more polite. He asked, "City Lord, has anything happened recently?" Sigh. Yes. Luan Xinwu, who I've been cultivating, betrayed us at the critical moment and joined the Dark Hill City, which is our enemy. This is a huge blow to us. It's too late for me to look for other contestants. Hence, I can only place all my hopes on you. Heavenly Supremacy Bao Tutian checked Yi Shang's cultivation after saying that. Seeing that he had become an upper earthly sovereign, he said with satisfaction, "Very good. You're now an upper earthly sovereign. 100 years is enough for me to help you break through to the earthly sovereign level." Governor, to be honest, Night Devil has the ability to fight beyond his level. However, it's very difficult to break through at the same time. It requires a lot of resources. For example, if I want to break through to the earthly sovereign level, I need heavenly sovereign level rules and essences. Night Sorrow said embarrassedly. However, if the governor of Baotu City could really help him break through to the earthly sovereign level within 100 years, he would not mistreat him. Not only would he help him achieve good results, but he would also help him get rid of all the fog on him after his strength had increased. He would help him recover his original appearance. Night Sorrow only understood when he arrived at the foggy area. Originally, there were not many natives in the foggy area who could make a name for themselves. Currently, the cultivators who controlled the foggy area were all from the eternal sovereign world. Including the 3 earthly sovereigns, there were no exceptions. Hearing that Night Sorrow needed heavenly sovereign level rules and essences, the governor of Baotu City's expression became unnatural. This was because the heavenly sovereign level rules and essences were very important to him. Moreover, he was not very rich. After all, he only controlled one city. Clan. Chapter 31-26. Compared to Yunshi Heavenly Sovereign, who controlled 7 to 8 cities, it was nothing at all. If Night Sorrow took out enough resources to break through to the earthly sovereign level, he could basically empty it all in one go. However, when he thought of Anling's city master, Bao Tuqian, who had been mocking him, he gritted his teeth and said, "Forget it. I'll take the risk this time. My lord, if I can successfully enter Lu Tian Academy, what kind of rewards will you and Bao Tuqian get?" Yi Shang asked as soon as Supreme Bao Tuqian finished his sentence. Although Bao Tuqian was from the fog zone, Suemo did not want to take advantage of him. However much he was prepared to give him, he would give him more. When Bao Tuqian heard this, he immediately laughed and said, "I don't expect you to enter the top 10 and be selected by Lu Tian Academy. As long as you enter the top 1,000, I'll get back what I've invested." Are there any heavenly sovereigns participating in the selection? Night Sorrow continued to ask after Bao Tuqian had finished speaking. He needed to have a rough understanding of the cultivators participating in the selection. Bao Tuqian thought for a while and said, "Normally, there are no heavenly sovereigns. However, at the end of every selection, there are always people who can advance to the heavenly sovereign level. Usually, 3 to 5 people can break through. These people deliberately suppress their cultivation level and wait for the selection to break through. Generally speaking, there would be more than 10 half-step heavenly sovereigns participating in the selection of Lu Tian Academy. Therefore, Bao Tuqian did not have any hope that Night Sorrow would enter the top 10. Got it. We can start now. 100 years is not long. I'll try my best to advance to the earthly sovereign level." Night Sorrow had a certain understanding of the people participating in the selection. He was very confident of getting a good result. If he could advance to the earthly sovereign level, he might even be able to enter the top 3. Then he could accept the gift from Bao Tuqian with peace of mind. "All right. I'll go get the resources. Just let me know if you need anything." After saying that, Bao Tuqian brought Night Sorrow into the cultivation room of the governor's mansion. He also left behind many heavenly sovereign rules and essences. "Don't worry, City Lord. I will raise my strength as soon as possible." After Supreme Bao Tuqian left, Yi Shang set up a formation and began to cultivate. Because he was in the misty area, he had to conceal his identity and didn't dare to cultivate freely. Therefore, his cultivation progress wasn't fast. About 40 years later, Night Sorrow successfully advanced to the level of a half-step earthly sovereign with the help of resources. In other words, he was a peak supreme martial artist. In the following 50 years, although Night Sorrow tried his best to absorb the heavenly sovereign's rules and essence, he did not advance to become an earthly sovereign. At this time, Night Sorrow entered the space with the heavenly spirit flower. He wondered if he should consume the heavenly spirit flower to help him become an earthly sovereign. The heavenly spirit flower was used by others to advance to heavenly sovereign, but he felt that if he used it, he could use it to advance to earthly sovereign. However, they were in Baotu City right now. If he were to consume it directly, there was no telling what would happen. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow decided to give up. Then, he observed the ancient coffin in the soil in the space. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with the ancient coffin, he was temporarily relieved. He was going to consume the heavenly spirit flower when he had the chance and then release the ancient coffin. He felt that carrying the ancient coffin was like carrying a time bomb. It didn't give him a sense of security. Wait until the Lu Tian Academy selection competition. 10 years before the competition started, Bao Tuqian came to the secret room and asked Night Sorrow to come out. When he found that Night Sorrow had not advanced to earthly sovereign, his face turned pale. However, he only had Night Sorrow in his hand now, so he didn't say anything. He just looked at Night Sorrow and said, "I don't have many requirements for the results. However, if you meet the cultivators of Anling City, you can't lose." "Don't worry. I won't lose. If I lose, Night Demon will die on the stage." Night Sorrow didn't know the strength of the cultivators in Anling City. However, Anling City was like Baotu City. It was located in a remote area. There shouldn't be any powerful cultivators who could break through to Heavenly Sovereign in the battle. Therefore, he was confident in dealing with them. "Good. It's enough to have such determination," the city lord of Baotu City added. "Right? Luan Xinwu, the cultivator who betrayed Baotu City, is an upper earthly sovereign. I'll kill him if I meet him." Yi Shang glanced at Sovereign Bao Tuqian and said confidently. For him, becoming an upper earthly sovereign was not a problem at all. "Good. If you can kill him, I'll reward you handsomely." Bao Tuqian said, "The venue of the Lu Tian Academy selection is a little special. We can't use the teleportation formation there. Let's go now." "Good. Let's go. Don't worry about the results. Night Demon won't let you down. Don't forget that I was fighting across realms when you first met me." Night Sorrow knew what Bao Tuqian was thinking. He smiled and comforted him. In response, Bao Tuqian smiled and said, "You're right. I can't look at you normally." After saying that, Bao Tuqian summoned his battleship. He brought Night Sorrow and 4 half-step heavenly sovereigns to the venue of the Lu Tian Academy selection. On the way, Bao Tuqian suddenly asked, "Brother Night Demon, where are you from? I feel that your aura is a little strange." "Me? I'm not sure where I'm from. It's like I've been dormant for countless years and have just woken up." Night Sorrow replied calmly when Bao Tuqian said that. He said that because he was from the eternal sovereign world, he had only been corroded by the fog recently. Therefore, his aura was a little strange. Hearing that, Bao Tuqian nodded and said, "No wonder. It seems like I have to make some changes to my aura. Otherwise, if I meet an expert like He Yanhu, my identity might be exposed." Night Sorrow thought for a while and returned to his residence. He entered the space with the heavenly spirit flower and came to the ancient coffin to absorb some of the aura around the ancient coffin. The dark aura was much stronger than the ordinary aura in the foggy area. It also gave off an extremely evil feeling. After absorbing a little, Night Sorrow felt that his aura had become even darker than Bao Tuqian's. However, under such circumstances, he had to divert some of his attention to resist the corrosion of the dark aura. Otherwise, one misstep would cause him to regret for eternity. "Night Demon, why has your aura changed so much?" When Night Sorrow appeared in front of Bao Tuqian again, Bao Tuqian was surprised. "To be honest, I got a black stone by chance. It's because I kept absorbing its aura that my strength improved so quickly. However, its aura is very evil." Night Sorrow thought for a while and found a random reason. Stealing incense. Chapter 31:27. Black Stone. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Bao Tu Tian asked in confusion. He was very interested. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he continued, "Forget it. Everyone has their own opportunities. I won't ask too much about you." Bao Tu Tian was afraid that Night Sorrow would overthink. After all, he was a heavenly sovereign, and Night Sorrow was only a half-step earthly sovereign. If he attacked, Night Sorrow would not be able to resist at all. "City Governor, you worry too much," Night Sorrow said politely, but he did not take out the so-called black stone. After all, he had absorbed the aura from the ancient coffin. He could not carry the ancient coffin out directly. It doesn't matter how you got it. What matters is your strength. Bao Tu Tian continued, "There should be some time on the way. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll tell you everything I know. Since the city governor has asked, I won't stand on ceremony." Upon hearing Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu's words, Yi Shang immediately thanked him. He really had a lot of questions about the Heavenly Sovereign realm. Along the way, he asked a lot of questions. Although Bao Tu Tian was ruthless to others, he was very kind to Night Sorrow. He explained and analyzed everything he knew to Night Sorrow. He also taught him a lot about formations. The formations in the foggy area were not the same as those in the Eternal Sovereign realm. Night Sorrow had gained a lot along the way. In the end, he was really grateful to Bao Tu Tian. "We're here. After passing through the mountain area in front, we'll be in the area controlled by the Lu Tian Academy." After piloting the warship for almost 9 years, Bao Tu earthly supremacy reminded Yi Shang as they passed by a mountain range. Although Night Sorrow had not cultivated in these years, his realm had stabilized a lot. He had reached the peak of the sovereign realm in all aspects. Hearing Bao Tu Tian's words, Night Sorrow came out of seclusion. He stood on the deck of the battleship and looked at the endless mountains in the distance. These mountains looked very tall, but they were different from the clouds in the Eternal Sovereign realm. They were shrouded in black gas, giving off an extremely evil feeling. The battleship entered the mountain range. Night Sorrow gradually felt his mind being affected, and he had the urge to kill. Moreover, this kind of impulse was gradually becoming uncontrollable. At this moment, if he utilized the energy of virtue, he would definitely be able to resist it. But it was possible. Thus, Night Sorrow looked at Supreme Bao Tu Tian and said, "City Lord, why do I feel like I can't control myself?" "Ha! There is no need to panic. It would be a bad thing if you could control yourself. This was the area used to detect spies from the Eternal Supreme World. If a spy from the Eternal Paragon World enters this area, he won't be able to sense any killing intent." Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu explained before he continued. "However, this test is useless for Heavenly Sovereigns." "Then, City Lord, since I've passed the test, can you help me resist this murderous aura?" Night Demon doesn't like the feeling of being controlled. Night Sorrow said. He didn't want to lose control in this aura. "Haha. This City Lord can't help, but you'll get used to it soon. Don't worry, this won't do you any harm." Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu obviously knew what was going on, so he told Night Sorrow to relax. Yi Shang knew that Prime Bao Tu Tian still had to rely on him, so he definitely would not make him unhappy. So he stopped resisting this dark aura. Gradually, the anger in his heart turned into black energy and wrapped around his body. Surrounded by this black energy, Night Sorrow felt that his whole body was full of power. However, there was still a violent emotion in his heart, and he was only a step away from losing control. Seeing Night Sorrow gradually calming down, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu said, "Don't be afraid, there will be a selection of the Heaven Slayer Academy later. The Academy won't let all of you lose control and become tools that only know how to kill. They just want to make you more excited." "I know." After replying, Night Sorrow began to get used to this feeling. At the same time, he felt somewhat lucky. He guessed that if he hadn't absorbed the dark aura of the ancient coffin, he would have been detected. Then, in a state of excitement, Night Sorrow followed Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu to the city built for the selection of the Heaven Slayer Academy. Mang Mountain City. After entering the city, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu looked at the date and confirmed that there was still about a year before the selection officially began. Thus, he brought Yishang and found an inn to stay in. Originally, Knight Sorrow wanted to cultivate in the inn, but Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu thought that he should take him to register first and inquire about the news at the same time. So, he took Knight Sorrow to the center of Mang Mountain City to register together. After asking around, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu panicked immediately. As of today, more than 100,000 people had registered for the competition, and none of them was below the earthly sovereign level. It seems that the number of people who will register in the end will be at least 200,000 to 300,000. This won't do. No matter what, I have to help you become an earthly sovereign as soon as possible. Otherwise, not to mention the results, I will become a laughingstock first. After returning to the inn from the registration area, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu thought about how to help Knight Sorrow become an earthly sovereign within a year. This was because it concerned his and Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu's reputation. If there were many earthly sovereigns participating in the competition, it would be fine. However, among all of them, only Knight Sorrow was an earthly sovereign, which would be very embarrassing for him. City Governor, if anyone laughs at us, let them laugh first. Night Demon will fight back with his strength. Knight Sorrow knew what Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu was thinking, so he comforted him. He had absolute confidence in his own strength. Hearing this, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu said, "No. Humans need their dignity, just like trees need their bark. I can't stand those people laughing at me. I will think of a way to get an earth spirit flower for you. I will let you become an earthly sovereign immediately." City Governor, the earth spirit flower is hard to come by. I think we should forget about it. Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu was more anxious than Knight Sorrow to help him break through. Knight Sorrow felt a little awkward. However, he did not persuade Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu at all. After Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu said that, he went out to look for information about the earth spirit flower. However, he did not get any information for 3 months. On a certain day after 3 months, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu was teaching Knight Sorrow about arrays. A cultivator with a sinister face suddenly brought a few people to the courtyard that they rented. He sneered and said, Bao Tuesday. This time, you've really shown off your brilliance. You actually brought a half-step earthly sovereign to participate in the selection competition of Lu Tian Academy. Are you looking down on Lu Tian Academy or the heroes of the world? Stealing incense. Chapter 31:28. Knight Sorrow immediately used the sea serpent's eye to look over. The one who spoke was a cultivator who looked sinister but actually had the face of a rat. He had a pointy mouth and monkey cheeks. Before Supremacy Bao Tuqian could speak, Knight Sorrow said coldly, "Where did this rat come from?" This sentence was just a normal reprimand to an ordinary person. However, Supremacy in Ling was a rat that had cultivated into a demon and then transformed into a human. He hated this sentence very much. As soon as Yishang finished speaking, he flew into a rage. He sneered, "You're the Supremacy contestant Bao Tuqian brought here? You're not that strong, but you're very arrogant. Believe it or not, I'll kill you immediately. If you have the ability to kill me directly, you would have done it long ago. Why are you still talking nonsense?" Knight Sorrow said to Supremacy and Ling in disdain. Supremacy Bao Tuqian immediately laughed out loud and said, "Haha, that's right. He wouldn't dare to make a move on Lu Tian Academy's territory even if he had the guts of a rat." Then, he looked at Supremacy and Ling in disdain. Supremacy and Ling was naturally embarrassed to be looked down upon by Knight Sorrow and Bao Tuqian. At this moment, he summoned Luan Xinwu, who had betrayed Bao Tuqian's city, and said, "Come. Say something to Supremacy Bao Tuqian." "Yes, Lord and Ling." After Luan Xinwu was summoned, he looked at Supremacy Bao Tuqian playfully and said, "Bao Tuqian, it's not that I want to criticize you. Even if I, Luan Xinwu, give up on Bao Tuqian's city, you can still find an earthly supremacy to participate in the competition, right? As a cultivator from Bao Tuqian's city, I feel embarrassed because of this. How about this? Kneel down and kowtow to me 9 times. Then I, Luan Xinwu, will continue to represent Bao Tuqian's city in the competition." "How dare you? Who do you think you are? How dare you balk at me here? My Bao Tuqian city has a goal. How can an ant like you join it so casually?" After Luan Xinwu finished speaking, Supremacy Bao Tuqian scolded him in disdain. Hearing this, Luan Xinwu sneered and said, "Deceiving oneself and others is indeed useful sometimes. At least it can numb yourself. What can an ant like you understand? Do you think you can reach the top just because you joined in Ling? You're just a dog in another place. If you have 1% of Night Demon, you won't be like this." Initially, Prime Bao Tutian was furious. However, Yi Shang comforted him with a voice transmission. Luan Xinwu disdain. To Supremes, Bao Tutian City, Luan Xinwu Luan become a supremacy Luan supremacy. Luo Tutian City Bao Tutian was Luan Luan supremacy. He was so excited that he could not control his emotions in such an environment created by the Killer Heaven Academy. Luan Tutian Luo Lu. Luan Luster the Lutian City Luster, Luo. Lut Bao Luan. Lude. Luan. Then he said, "I, the Night Demon, challenge you to a life and death challenge. According to the rules of the Killer Heaven Academy. Is Tutian. Let's go. Let's go to the city center." Wah! You're just a supremacy. Aren't you afraid of death? Luan Xinwu's face immediately revealed an impudent smile when he heard Yi Shan's challenge. Supremacy and Ling looked at Supremacy Bao Tutian and mocked. "Your subordinate seems to be more excited than you." Excited? What's there to be excited about? What's there to be excited about? Who doesn't have thousands of lives on their hands? Heavenly Supreme Bao Tu said indifferently after Heavenly Supreme Dark Hill finished speaking. When Night Sorrow challenged Luan Xinwu, he had sent a message to Luan Xinwu. After confirming that Luan Xinwu was confident, he was relieved. Haha, you're just comforting yourselves. Let's see how you're going to find another contestant after Night Demon is killed. Luan Xinwu released his aura and said, "With Lord and Ling's help, I've become a half-step heavenly supremacy. Do you think a half-step earthly supremacy can defeat a half-step heavenly supremacy? With your character, you're no match for Night Demon even if you're a half-step supreme realm." Supremacy Bao Tutian said disdainfully after Luan Xinwu finished speaking. At the same time, he sent a message to Night Sorrow. "Night Demon, his strength has increased. Are you still confident? If not, we'll give up the challenge. Even if it's embarrassing, it's better than being killed. Don't worry. Although he has become a half-step heavenly supremacy, his realm is not stable. He's not much stronger than an ordinary upper earthly supremacy. He's no match for me." Night Sorrow said with certainty. Luan Xinwu and Supremacy and Ling said, "Let's go. Let's go to the Ring of Life and Death in the city center. Since you're in such a hurry to die, we'll fulfill your wish." After Night Sorrow finished speaking, Supremacy and Ling looked at Luan Xinwu and said, "Let's end this battle." "Don't worry, Lord. He can kill supremacies like slaughtering chickens and rabbits. Let's kill him quickly and study the other opponents. This time, we'll strive to enter the top 10,000 and win glory for Anling City." After Luan Xinwu finished speaking, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Let's go. Follow me to meet your death." Pathetic. Until now, you still can't see your own fate. Night Sorrow mocked and flew toward the arena of life and death in the city with Supremacy Bao Tutian. Supremacy and Ling and Luan Xinwu followed behind. However, when they arrived at the arena of life and death, they realized that they had to line up. They were arranged for the 22nd battle because there were too many cultivators who had conflicts in their excitement. In the center of the city, there was only one arena of life and death. You can live a little longer and watch a few more battles between earthly supremacies. Seeing that they had to line up, Luan Xinwu looked at Night Sorrow coldly. Hearing this, Night Sorrow smiled and shook his head. "Soon, you'll know how ignorant you are." After he finished speaking, Yi Shang no longer paid any attention to the chattering Luan Xinwu. He watched the battles in the arena of life and death with Supremacy Bao Tutian. The first battle had successfully attracted everyone's attention. The two opponents were actually two heavenly supremacies. The probability of two heavenly supremacies entering the arena of life and death was very low. The two opponents were called Heavenly Supremacy Qinghu and Heavenly Supremacy Qinghu. Their names were very similar. It was also because of their names that they gradually had conflicts. It was also strange. After entering the arena, the two sides did not say anything and directly attacked. After they attacked, Night Sorrow opened the sea serpent's eye and could barely see some of the tracks. As for the other earthly supremacies present, they could not see anything clearly. Chapter 31-29. Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu and Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu. They were Qinghu and Qinghu, respectively. They were ferocious in battle, but they remained in their human forms. They did not transform into Qinghu and Qinghu. However, although they were in their human forms, their fighting style still maintained the primitive bestial nature of demonic beasts. When they fought, they were quite cold and bloodthirsty. Night Sorrow used the eye of the sea serpent to watch for a while. He had a better understanding of the battle between the heavenly sovereigns. At the same time, his understanding of the heavenly sovereigns also improved. He vaguely felt that he was getting closer and closer to becoming an earthly sovereign. It was as if he could see the window paper, and he was only one step away from breaking it. Very good. I have gained a lot from watching this battle. Under such circumstances, Night Sorrow became more and more fascinated as he watched. In the end, he was completely immersed in it. He even almost comprehended a unique skill. After the battle between the two heavenly sovereigns ended, Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu flew out of the arena as the winner. Night Sorrow looked at Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu and said, "The battle between heavenly sovereigns is indeed different. In terms of rhythm, we can't keep up. Therefore, no matter what, we are no match for them." Haha. Even I can't see the battle between the two heavenly sovereigns clearly. Why are you pretending? You are even commenting. What a joke. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Luan Xinwu mocked him before Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tu could say anything. As far as he was concerned, Yi Shan was simply playing to the gallery. Night Sorrow smiled and looked at Luan Xinwu. "You are a frog at the bottom of the well. How dare you talk about the sun and moon? You can't understand it, but it doesn't mean others can't. Fine. You are stubborn. Anyway, you won't be able to get out of the arena when you are in it." Luan Xinwu looked at Night Sorrow with disdain. He felt as if he was looking at a dead man. Night Sorrow couldn't be bothered with him. To him, Luan Xinwu was the real dead man. At this time, Bao Tu looked at Night Sorrow and said, "Night Demon, can you really see the battle between the two heavenly sovereigns clearly?" "I can't see it clearly, but I can vaguely see some of its tracks." Night Sorrow replied honestly before he continued, "But just looking at these tracks, I feel like I've benefited a lot, and I can vaguely feel like I'm about to become an earthly sovereign. Thank you so much, heavenly sovereigns." "All right. Very good." Upon hearing that Night Sorrow was about to become an earthly sovereign, Supremacy Bao Tuqian nodded with satisfaction. At this moment, Heavenly Sovereign Dark Hai and Luan Xinwu had looks of disdain on their faces. They felt that Night Sorrow was simply bragging without thinking. At that moment, Heavenly Sovereign Green Fox, who had been about to leave the stage, suddenly stopped. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at Night Sorrow. "I just realized that you can see something. Interesting. I'll give you this tiger skin." As he spoke, he tossed Sky Supremacy Qinghu's skin to Night Sorrow. "Hurry up and thank Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu." A Heavenly Supreme level tiger skin could be refined into a decent defensive armor. It was a rare treasure for an earthly sovereign. Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu had given it to him. Supremacy Bao Tuqian immediately asked Night Sorrow to express his gratitude. At this moment, Night Sorrow tossed the tiger skin back and said, "Thank you, Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu. However, I can't accept your gift without doing anything." "Haha, you are indeed an interesting little fellow." Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu smiled as he received Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu's skin. Then he left. "Night Sorrow, why didn't you accept the tiger skin? That is a Heavenly Sovereign's skin. It can be refined into something good." After Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu left, Supremacy Bao Tuqian said regretfully, "City Lord, there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu just wanted to prove that what I said was true and that he could see some traces of the battle. He didn't really want to give me the tiger skin. If I was greedy and accepted the tiger skin, I would definitely get into big trouble. Do you think that Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu, who fought with other heavenly sovereigns because of his name, would be so generous as to give away a heavenly sovereign skin for no reason?" Night Sorrow transmitted his voice to Supremacy Bao Tuqian. "Impressive. Your temperament is really good. After hearing Night Sorrow's analysis, Supremacy Bao Tutian was enlightened. Then he said, perhaps your future achievements will be greater than mine. City Lord, you flatter me. Night Sorrow said and looked at Luan Xinwu. At this moment, Luan Xinwu was a little speechless. Heavenly Sovereign Qinghu had already said that Night Sorrow could see some traces of the battle. This made him act like a fool. When he saw Night Sorrow looking at him, he gritted his teeth and said murderously, let's meet in the arena. Let's meet in the arena. Yi Shuang didn't continue to say anything else since he was in the right. Instead, he watched the subsequent battles in peace. After watching the battle between the heavenly sovereigns, Night Sorrow felt that there was nothing to learn from watching the battle between the earthly sovereigns. The things that he could absorb were basically negligible. In the end, he simply closed his eyes and rested, waiting for his battle to begin. Finally, after 3 days, the opportunity to enter the arena came. After flying into the life and death arena, Night Sorrow looked at Luan Xinwu, who was already in the arena. At this moment, Luan Xinwu's expression was solemn, and he was no longer as arrogant as he was a few days ago. His temperament is not as bad as he looks. Night Sorrow muttered to himself after seeing Luan Xinwu's performance. Luan Xinwu was obviously arrogant and rude before the battle, but he was very serious when it came to the battle. Die! At the same time that Yi Shang looked over, Luan Xinwu suddenly threw a punch. He seemed to have only thrown one punch. However, thousands of fist prints appeared in the void. These fist prints were all made of primordial qi. Because of the special aura in the fog, they were all black. It looks very strong, but it actually doesn't have much attack power. To sum it up, it's just gaudy. Night Sorrow used the sea serpent's eye to see through the trajectory of the punch. Then, he suddenly threw a punch. Night Sorrow did not make any changes to this punch. It was just a simple punch, but the power it contained was definitely much more powerful than the thousands of punches that Luan Xinwu had thrown out. Remember, this is called the essence of the punch, not the quantity. With a loud roar, Yi Shan used a simple unadorned punch to shatter Luan Xinwu's fist shadows. Then, he threw a punch at Luan Xinwu's chest. Boom! After being hit by this punch, Luan Xinwu immediately flew out and crashed into the protective shield of the arena. Good. Night Demon, you really did not disappoint me. Kill him. Seeing that Night Sorrow had sent Luan Xinwu flying with one punch, Sovereign Bao Tutian roared and started to think about how he could help Night Sorrow become an earthly sovereign quickly. Night Sorrow had not become an earthly sovereign yet, but he was already in such a battle. If he could help him become an earthly sovereign, there might be an unexpected surprise. Clan M. Chapter 3130. In Bao Tutian's opinion, this kind of investment should be a sure win. But at this time he muttered to himself, that's not right. He has the strength to fight a top earthly sovereign now. If he wants to become an earthly sovereign, what he needs is not the earthly spirit flower, but the heavenly spirit flower. The heavenly spirit flower is a priceless treasure. Where can I get it? After thinking for a while, Bao Tutian felt that there was not much he could do to help Night Sorrow. After all, he was not a rich heavenly sovereign. I've said that you are no match for him. In the short period when Bao Tutian was distracted, Night Sorrow had successfully suppressed Luan Xinwu with his advantage. At first, Luan Xinwu felt humiliated when he was suppressed by Night Sorrow. In his opinion, he should be able to defeat his opponent easily. But after fighting for a while, he suddenly realized that he could not suppress Night Sorrow in any way. He started to panic and realized that he might be the one to die in the arena of life and death today. After thinking for a while, Luan Xinwu felt that he should not be careless anymore. He thought to himself, compared to my life, face is not important at all. I have to use the mentality of the weak to fight against the strong and start to defend patiently, waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. He realized that Luan Xinwu had stopped underestimating him. Night Sorrow also started to take it seriously. He sneered, it's too late for you to take it seriously now. This is called being defeated like a landslide. After shouting, Night Sorrow used the Qing Xian godly spear technique and attacked Luan Xinwu crazily. For a while, Luan Xinwu was suppressed very passively. He could only defend himself and could not fight back. This heavenly sovereign is not simple. He can actually force a half-step heavenly sovereign to such a state. Yes. He can suppress his opponent who is so many small realms above him. This kind of talent is highly valued by the Lu Tian Academy. Maybe he can be selected. Some of the spectators started to discuss the process of Night Sorrow suppressing Luan Xinwu. Hearing these discussions, Bao Tuqian looked at Heavenly Sovereign and Ling proudly and said, "The genius that you have painstakingly poached and nurtured doesn't look like much?" Humph. Heavenly Supreme Dark Ling, who had been mocked, simply couldn't think of any words to refute. He transmitted his voice to Luan Xinwu. "Why is it so difficult to deal with a half-step earthly sovereign? Could it be that you want this city lord to become everyone's laughingstock?" Back then when he poached Luan Xinwu over, Ling had put in a lot of capital. His goal was to embarrass supremacy Bao Tuqian, who had a grudge against him. However, he did not expect that his face would be slapped so hard before the Killer Heaven Academy's qualifier even started. Reporting to the city lord, "This night demon is indeed not simple." It was not something that an ordinary earthly sovereign could fight against. This subordinate has already done his best. Luan Xinwu replied helplessly. As the battle progressed, he had already used all his skills, but he was still no match for Night Sorrow. "Since I'm no match for him, I'll self-detonate and kill him. This city lord will think of a way to help you reincarnate. It's better than your soul being destroyed." Heavenly Supreme and Ling said viciously. "Yes, my lord." Hearing Heavenly Supreme and Ling's words, Luan Xinwu felt that it made sense. If he was killed in the arena, then it would definitely be the end of his divine sense being destroyed. However, if he self-detonated, both sides would be injured. Even if he died, he would still have a chance to be reincarnated. After a slight hesitation, he was ready to self-detonate. He began to look for an opportunity in the battle. Coincidentally, not long after the battle, Night Sorrow used the Divine Essence trapping array and began to suppress him in close combat. At this time, Luan Xinwu's face revealed a ghostly smile, and he suddenly chose to self-detonate. Bas. Although Luan Xinwu had just advanced to half-step Heavenly Supreme, the power of his self-detonation was still very terrifying. Night Sorrow, who had not expected Luan Xinwu to be so decisive in choosing to self-detonate, did not dodge the attack. He was instantly sent flying and crashed into the energy shield. After a while, he finally managed to get up. After checking his body, Night Sorrow found that there was nothing wrong with him. This was all thanks to the recent increase in his physical strength. If it were in the past, even if he did not die, he would have been seriously injured. He looked at Luan Xinwu, who had been completely shattered, leaving only a trace of his soul floating in the void. Night Sorrow thought to himself, "It's all thanks to the experience in the Demon Fall battlefield. And I've advanced to peak Heavenly Supreme. Otherwise, it would have been really unbearable." Then he held Luan Xinwu's soul in his hand and sneered, "Good plan. However, as I said, the one who will die is you. Let me go, please let me go. I'll submit to you." Seeing that Night Sorrow was about to kill him in the arena, Luan Xinwu lost his dignity. He begged for mercy in front of everyone. Hearing this, Bao Tuqian, who was below the stage, immediately shouted, "There's no need to keep such a slave of 3 surnames alive. Just kill him." Night Sorrow also felt that there was no need to keep Luan Xinwu alive. With a wave of his hand, he would kill him directly. "Night Demon, you're very good. However, do you think you can get away with offending me, Ling? Stop dreaming." When Night Sorrow flew down from the life and death arena, Ling looked at him coldly and said, "You better pray that no one from Ling City will meet you in the selection. Otherwise, you'll definitely die." Luan Xinwu thought the same as you. Now, his soul is destroyed. Night Sorrow looked at Ling and said coldly, "Now that you've said this, I think your ending will be the same as his." "Bastard! You're just an ant. How dare you threaten me?" Ling had always thought that Heavenly Supremes were superior. Now that he was despised by Night Sorrow, he immediately flew into a rage. "So what if I'm threatening you?" At this time, Bao Tuqian stood in front of Night Sorrow and said, "Ling, let me tell you, what the Night Demon said is what I said. Sooner or later, we'll kill you. We'll destroy your soul. I'll wait for you. When we return, we'll launch a siege. Let's see who will have the last laugh." And Ling, who was completely enraged, roared coldly. He was prepared to launch a war between Enling City and Bao Tuqian City when he returned. Upon hearing this, Bao Tuqian smiled and said, "Come on, I'm not afraid of you. I'm just afraid that Knight Sorrow will be chosen by Lu Tian Academy, and you won't dare to send your troops." "Humph! He'll be chosen by Lu Tian Academy? Dream on," Enling said disdainfully after hearing Bao Tuqian's words. Then he added, "If this ant can be chosen by Lu Tian Academy, I'll kill myself in front of you. If he can't be chosen, you Bao Tuqian will kneel on the ground and kowtow to me 1,000 times. Do you dare to accept this bet?" In his opinion, Knight Sorrow had no chance of being chosen by Lu Tian Academy. Clan M. Chapter 31-31. Since it was impossible for Yi Shang to be chosen by the Killer Heaven Academy, he, Tian Supreme and Ling, would definitely win this bet. If Supremacy Bao Tuqian agreed, then he would definitely lose. If he didn't agree, then he would lose face. In Enling's opinion, this was killing two birds with one stone. He wouldn't lose no matter what. Supremacy Bao Tuqian was speechless when he heard this. What he thought was similar to Supremacy and Ling's. Although Knight Sorrow looked very outstanding, he should still be a distance away from the top 10. It would be difficult for him to be selected by Lu Tian Academy. If he agreed rashly, he might lose face. For a moment, he really didn't know how to respond. At this moment, Knight Sorrow, who saw through Supremacy Bao Tuqian's thoughts, transmitted his voice to him. "City Lord, don't worry and agree to it. I should be able to advance to Earth Supremacy soon. By then, I will have the strength to enter the top 10. And from the discussion of the audience just now, I heard that Lu Tian Academy not only values strength, but also potential. Night Demon's potential should be worthy of their attention." "This Night Demon, are you really confident?" Supremacy Bao Tuqian asked doubtfully when he heard this. As the governor of a small city at the border, he had never thought that there would be a talent selected by the Killer Heaven Academy in his city. At this moment, he was a little stunned. "I can't say that I'm absolutely confident. After all, Lu Tian Academy has their own way of thinking, but I should not be weaker than others." Knight Sorrow transmitted his voice confidently. He didn't say these words in public. "All right, I'll believe you this time. If you succeed, I will benefit from it too. If you fail, we'll just kill Enling." Supremacy Bao Tuqian transmitted his voice to Knight Sorrow. He looked at Supremacy and Ling and said, "Okay, I agree to the bet." "Ha ha ha, good. Then let's make a heavenly oath." Heavenly Supreme and Ling laughed loudly as he swore an oath. Supremacy Bao Tuqian thought for a moment and also made a heavenly oath. Then, Supremacy Bao Tuqian and Knight Sorrow returned to the inn together. After arriving at the inn, Supremacy Bao Tuqian kept thinking about the bet. He let Knight Sorrow cultivate in the inn while he went out to look for the heavenly spirit flower or other treasures that could help Knight Sorrow. Yi Shang was more or less grateful for this. But after Supremacy Bao Tuqian left, he entered the inn's secret room. He set up a formation. Then he started to cultivate. Time was of the essence. He hoped to use the heavenly spirit flower to break through to the earthly sovereign realm. Otherwise, it would be too conspicuous for him to remain in the Jizuan realm. If he got too much attention, he would be exposed was eternal supremacy's world. After setup was the heavenly spirit flowers, Knight Sorrow took the flower directly. There was a fragrance. Heavenly spirit. After taking it, Yi Shang's mouth still had a lingering fragrance. Was. After consuming the heavenly spirit flower, he immediately felt the bottleneck of the earthly sovereign level being broken. Without wasting much effort, he had directly advanced to the level of earthly sovereign. But at this moment, because he had completely released his energy, the aura around Yi Shang's body couldn't be concealed by the fog. In this case, he re-entered the space where the ancient coffin was and started to absorb the dark aura around the ancient coffin. He restored his aura to its dark state. Then, he flew out of the city to fight against the Thunder Tribulation energy clone. In about 2 days, Knight Sorrow successfully defeated the Thunder Tribulation energy clone and became an earthly supremacy. He checked his aura and found nothing wrong with it. Knight Sorrow returned to the city. Supremacy Bao Tuqian still had not returned. Yi Shan and his 4 subordinates greeted each other. He asked them to send a voice transmission to Supremacy Bao Tuqian to tell him that he had advanced to heavenly supremacy. Then, he was ready to enter the state of cultivation again. He was going to deduce some secret techniques. But after the subordinates sent him a voice transmission, they found out that he had obtained the heavenly spirit flower and was rushing back from outside the city. How did he get it? If I had known, I wouldn't have used my own heavenly spirit flower. Yi Shang said regretfully when he received the news. At this time, the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, who was still recuperating in the space abode, immediately sent a voice transmission. If you don't need it, you can give it to me. Wait until I advance to peak earthly supremacy. Then, I can use it to advance to heavenly supremacy. I'll find a way to get it for you. Night Sorrow replied to the chaotic heavenly crystal beast, and then personally sent a voice transmission to Supremacy Bao Tuqian. He told him that if he got the heavenly spirit flower, he would most likely advance to middle earthly supremacy. Supremacy Bao Tuqian was overjoyed. He thought to himself, Night Demon can defeat a half-step heavenly supremacy at the supremacy stage. If I advance to middle earthly supremacy, then I can fight with a heavenly supremacy. While thinking, he replied to Night Sorrow, Night Demon, don't worry. I will definitely bring the heavenly spirit flower back for you. Thank you, Supremacy Bao Tuqian. Night Sorrow said gratefully. This Bao Tuqian is quite generous. However, at this moment, he heard Supremacy Bao Tuqian's voice transmission. Night Demon. It's over. I've been ambushed. I'm afraid I won't be able to return to the city. What? The city governor has been ambushed. How many opponents are there? What are their cultivation levels? Night Sorrow heard this and quickly asked. If Bao Tuqian was killed at this juncture, the heavenly spirit flower would be taken away, and it would be hard to say whether he could continue to participate in the selection. This was something Night Sorrow could not accept. And Ling and another heavenly supremacy are waiting for me. I'm no match for the 2 of them. And I don't have the advantage in speed. I might die. After Ling is done with me, he will definitely attack you. You'd better run. Bao Tuqian was being suppressed by 2 heavenly supremacies, but he did not forget to send a voice transmission to Night Sorrow. Upon hearing his words, Night Sorrow continued to send a voice transmission. Tell me where you are fighting. I might be able to help. He felt that now that he had advanced to the level of earthly supremacy, he might be able to fight against a heavenly supremacy. After all, the resources that he consumed were all from a higher cultivation level. Ordinary people use the heavenly spirit flower to advance to the level of heavenly supremacy, but he had only advanced to the level of earthly supremacy. I'm not telling you the location because I'm afraid you'll come. It's useless. Run. Although you have advanced to the level of earthly supremacy, you're definitely no match for a heavenly supremacy. Give up. Bao Tuqian continued to send a voice transmission. Cut the crap. Tell me the location. I'll go there immediately. Don't underestimate me. Night Sorrow had been in a state of excitement in the city. When Supremacy Bao Tuqian did not tell him the location, he immediately flew into a rage. Sigh. All right. I'm 1,000,000 miles northwest of the city. Night Sorrow flew into a rage. Supremacy Bao Tuqian, on the other hand, was very pleased. He thought that he could only try his best at this point. Hence, he told him where he was. Clan M. Chapter 31-32. After Night Sorrow learned from Sovereign Bao Tuqian where he was being attacked, he immediately flew out of the city. 1,000,000 miles was not far for earthly sovereigns and heavenly sovereigns. Night Sorrow did not take long to reach the place where they were fighting. At this time, Sovereign Bao Tuqian could not hold on any longer and had lost the ability to resist. He was being ravaged by Sovereign and Ling. If it were not for Sovereign and Ling's deep resentment toward Sovereign Bao Tuqian, he would have killed him long ago. He would not have lasted until now. And you are here. Good. Today, I will kill both of you. Heavenly Supreme Anling, who was fighting Heavenly Supreme Bao Tu, smiled in surprise when he saw Yi Shang arrive. On the other hand, Sovereign Bao Tuqian had a complicated expression on his face. It was impossible for him not to be moved by Night Sorrow's appearance, but on the other hand, he felt that Night Sorrow was just here to die. This was because heavenly sovereigns were superior existences. No matter how outstanding Knight Sorrow was, he was only a lower earthly sovereign. The gap between them was huge. He thought to himself, why bother? At this time, he did not see any hope at all. After Knight Sorrow appeared, he looked at Sovereign and Ling and said, since we have a bet previously, let's make a bet. How about another bet? Haha, bet. What ability do you have to bet with me? After Yi Shang spoke, Sky Supremacy and Ling looked at him coldly. The other heavenly sovereign beside Ling crossed his arms and looked like he was watching a show. After all, Sovereign Bao Tuqian had no combat power at this time. Knight Sorrow was only a lower earthly sovereign, so he was not strong enough. I bet that you can't hurt me within 100 moves. If I win, you let Sovereign Bao Tuqian go today. If you win, Sovereign Bao Tuqian and I will serve you forever. Do you dare to bet? After saying that, Yi Shang continued, do you want a dead heavenly sovereign, or do you want a living heavenly sovereign servant? Think about it yourself. This bet is interesting. The masked heavenly sovereign who was standing beside Sovereign and Ling immediately said with interest, I think you can bet on it. An earthly sovereign is still okay, but a heavenly sovereign slave is hard to come by. Our forces are like tigers that have grown wings. Upon hearing that, Sovereign and Ling smiled and said, I have to admit that this bet is very tempting. I have never thought of making my old rival Bao Tuqian to serve me. Now, his dream was about to come true. How can I refuse such a bet? After saying that, Heavenly Supremacy and Ling turned to Heavenly Supremacy Bao Tu and asked, the question now is, Bao Tu, do you agree to this bet? This bet. At Sovereign Bao Tuqian was the heavenly sovereign. Originally, he didn't have much hope of surviving. Hearing this bet, he was very nervous. He transmitted his voice to Knight Sorrow. Night Demon, do you have the confidence to fight him, or is this a stalling tactic? With his pride, it was impossible for him to submit to Sky Sovereign and Ling. To him, it would be better to have his divine soul destroyed than to do that. This is a stalling tactic, but I have a chance to defend against his attack. I have a trump card. He should be unable to break through my defense. However, I don't know what will happen if I use it. Now that things have come to this, I have no choice but to use it. Knight Sorrow said. He was almost 100% sure that he could defend against Sovereign and Ling. However, he might not be able to control the situation. In order to enter Lu Tian Academy, he had to save Sovereign Bao Tuqian. He also wanted to protect the heavenly spirit flower for the chaotic heavenly crystal beast. After hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Sovereign Bao Tuqian pondered for a moment and said, how many chances can there be in life? Night Devil, I believe in you. Alright. City Lord, let's take a gamble. Let's see what will happen. No matter what, we can't let Ling win. Knight Sorrow said firmly. Although he was transmitting his voice, his tone was impassioned. Yes. We won't let him have an easy time. Sovereign Bao Tuqian replied to Knight Sorrow, then looked at Sovereign and Ling and said, I agree to this bet. And I'm willing to swear a heavenly Dao oath. After saying that, Sovereign Bao Tuqian began to swear a heavenly Dao oath. Ha ha ha. Good, very good. I, and Ling, am happy to have 2 more servants. After Sovereign and Ling finished speaking, he began to swear a heavenly Dao oath. After he finished, he looked at Knight Sorrow and said, and it's your turn. Swear a heavenly Dao oath, and we'll start the battle immediately. Alright. I, Night Devil. Knight Sorrow did not hesitate and swore a heavenly Dao oath. He looked at the other party and said, go ahead. Let me see what kind of strength the heavenly sovereign has. As he spoke, he was recalling the battle between heavenly sovereign Qinghu and heavenly sovereign Qinghu. He could not see clearly that kind of speed before he advanced to Earth Sovereign. But now that he recalled it, he could more or less see it. He did not want to use his trump card right away. He wanted to test his true strength and see if he could fight a lower heavenly sovereign like Ling. Haha. An ant is more arrogant than a dragon or a phoenix. I'll destroy your confidence now. Heavenly Supreme Ling roared and sent a palm strike at Yi Shang. In his opinion, if he used his full strength, it was very likely that he would kill Knight Sorrow. Therefore, he only used 30% of his strength. So weak? He shouldn't have used his full strength. Knight Sorrow, who had already activated the 33 Heavens battle secret technique, observed with the sea serpent's eye and found that Sovereign and Ling's attack did not seem very strong. He did not use any secret technique at all, just a slap. Boom. After the two of them clashed, Knight Sorrow, who had used about 70% of his strength, fought to a draw with Sovereign and Ling. This ant's strength is not bad. No wonder he dares to boast about fighting with you. Seeing that Sovereign and Ling and Knight Sorrow had fought to a draw, the masked Heavenly Sovereign at the side suddenly became interested. It is indeed interesting. Although I have only used 30% of my strength, it is already very good for a lower earthly sovereign to be able to take this attack. Sovereign and Ling was not upset that his attack had been blocked. Instead, he said excitedly, if such a servant is nurtured to the level of a heavenly sovereign, his future will be limitless. It will definitely be a good thing for our forces. Yes, take him down immediately. The masked heavenly sovereign nodded in agreement. Don't worry. I can feel that he doesn't have much strength left, Sovereign and Ling said. He then used 70% of his strength and slapped again. He judged that this was already beyond Knight Sorrow's limit. He did not want to use too much strength and kill Knight Sorrow directly. You are thinking too much. Knight Sorrow, who had seen through his opponent's thoughts, took out his golden heavenly halberd and used all his strength to attack with the divine spear. Clan M. Chapter 31-33. The Godly Spear Technique was not as powerful as the Qingxian Godly Spear Technique, but the latter was a combination technique, so it was not suitable to use it here. Boom. Knight Sorrow used the Godly Spear Technique and clashed with Heavenly Sovereign and Ling's palm wind. He was directly blasted away. However, he quickly stood up without any injuries. Although there was a huge gap in strength between them, Knight Sorrow's body had improved a lot through the tempering in the Demon Fall battlefield. After advancing to the Earth Sovereign level, there was not much difference between him and ordinary heavenly sovereigns. Compared to the gap in strength, Knight Sorrow's body was not much weaker than Heavenly Sovereign and Ling's. Night Demon, are you okay? Although Knight Sorrow knew that he was fine, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian did not know. After the two finished exchanging blows, he asked with concern. Knight Sorrow's battle concerned their fates, so Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian was completely on his side. Be careful, City Lord. I'm fine. However, if he uses his ultimate technique, I'll have to use that thing. Knight Sorrow said, then looked at Heavenly Sovereign and Ling and said, there's still a long way to go before 100 moves. Let's continue. Not bad. You took a move with 80% of my strength and didn't suffer any injuries. If nothing goes wrong, you'll be selected by Lu Tian Academy. To have a servant like you, I'll definitely have a huge amount of resources in the future. Heavenly Sovereign and Ling laughed and said, next, I'll use my full strength and ultimate technique. If you can't take it, surrender quickly. Otherwise, I'll kill you directly. After saying that, Heavenly Sovereign and Ling used an ordinary ultimate technique on Knight Sorrow. Dark Soul Palm. This was the ultimate technique that Heavenly Sovereign and Ling used when he had just advanced to the Heavenly Sovereign level. Its power was relatively weak, and he had not used it for a long time. Now that he used it, he was a little rusty, and its power was ordinary. However, Knight Sorrow did not dare to be careless in the face of a Heavenly Sovereign's ultimate technique. He knew that he would only be seriously injured and would not be killed if he took it head-on. However, there was no need. Because what they agreed upon was not 3 moves, but 100. I'll let you have a taste of how it feels to attack it. When Sky Sovereign Darkling's attack approached, Knight Sorrow suddenly summoned the ancient coffin in the space, blocking in front of him. The moment the ancient coffin was summoned, it immediately released an endless aura of darkness. The dark aura was so dense that it seemed to have come from the abyss of hell, causing fear to rise in people's hearts. Sky Sovereign and Ling's attack landed on the black chi surrounding the ancient coffin, but it didn't cause any damage. Seeing An Ling's attack being neutralized so easily by the ancient coffin, Zhang Xian's eyes widened. An Ling couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. After a brief investigation, he was certain that this ancient coffin wasn't something he could fight against. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. He transmitted his voice to the masked Heavenly Sovereign beside him. What is this ancient coffin? Why do I feel like I'm trembling? I don't want to attack him at all. I'm not sure either, but it's definitely not simple. We are all heavenly sovereigns, but when we face this ancient coffin, our hearts tremble. If I'm not wrong, it's very likely that a Lemmeter from a certain era is buried here. The masked heavenly sovereign guessed, but he had no idea. Indeed. When Heavenly Sovereign and Ling heard this, he continued, "Tell me, could this night demon in front of us have obtained the inheritance of a Lemmeter? Is that why he's so strong? As an earthly sovereign, he can take the attack of a heavenly sovereign head-on? It's possible. I think with the strength that he has displayed, it's not impossible for him to defeat a heavenly sovereign who has just advanced. This is a talent that can't be found in the entire fog zone. Today's matter is going to be tricky," the masked heavenly sovereign said slowly with a frown on his face. While they were conversing, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow. "Night Demon. This ancient coffin gives off an extremely dangerous feeling. It's not very good for you to bring it with you and summon it to fight against the enemy, right? Or do you have some connection with this ancient coffin? Aren't you afraid of the backlash?" When he said this, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian recalled some of the things that Night Sorrow had said back then. He was sure that this was his trump card. Presumably, the sudden increase in the black chi around him was also related to the ancient coffin. "There's no connection between me and this ancient coffin. If a high-level existence awakens in it, I'm afraid I'll be killed immediately. But from the looks of it, it's necessary to summon it if we want to solve today's matter," Night Sorrow explained. Then he continued, "After today, I'll think of a way to bury it in a place with good feng shui. It'll be considered as returning the favor to him. Do this as soon as possible. This ancient coffin gives off a very strange feeling. It makes one's heart tremble. You have to give up as soon as possible. Don't be greedy for its power." Most of the people in the fog zone use the energy in the fog zone to cultivate and improve their strength very quickly. However, Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian still reminded Night Sorrow not to use the ancient coffin's power for long periods of time. He was afraid that it would cause karma. Hearing this, Night Sorrow continued to transmit his voice. "After today's matter is settled, I'll do this." "Good. Let's solve this matter first. If nothing goes wrong, they won't dare to continue attacking. You should be the winner of this bet," Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian said with a smile. "You saved my life. It's hard to repay this favor. You and I are brothers in the future. If I have something, there will be something for you, Night Demon." "Good." When Night Sorrow heard Bao Tu's words, he looked at Heavenly Sovereign Darkling and said, "Continue attacking." In fact, he knew that Heavenly Sovereign and Ling would not have the courage to attack the ancient coffin. That was the truth. Heavenly Sovereign and Ling pondered for a moment. Then, he looked at Night Sorrow and said, "How can I continue attacking when you take out such a thing? You've made a good plan today. I've lost the bet. You can leave now." This was what he had discussed with Heavenly Sovereign and Ling. They could deal with Bao Tuqian and Heavenly Sovereign and Ling at any time, but they could not attack the ancient coffin. "You're a straightforward person." Hearing this, Night Sorrow said with a smile. Then he continued, "Then we'll be leaving." After saying that, he helped Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian up and flew back to the city. After they returned to the city, they set up a formation to let Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian recover his vitality. After Heavenly Sovereign Bao Tuqian recovered, the two went out of the city again to find a suitable burial place for the ancient coffin. They buried it on a dragon vein. The two returned to the city again and waited for the start of the selection. For the two of them, the selection was very important. Therefore, they were more cautious about it. However, on the night before the preliminaries began, it was already too late. Night Sorrow was depressed. Chapter 31-34. This was because the ancient coffin that he and Prime Bao Tuqian had worked so hard to bury had flown back by itself. He stayed by Yi Shang's side and had no intention of leaving. In the following day, Night Sorrow and Prime Bao Tuqian buried the ancient coffin more than 10 times. But every time, it would fly back by itself. It seemed to have stuck to Night Sorrow. There were only 2 hours left until the start of the selection. Prime Bao Tuqian looked at Night Sorrow helplessly and said, I think it's easier to invite the devil in than to send it away. It's not easy to send it away. The selection is about to start. Why don't you keep it first and let's take part in the selection? That's the only way. We can't bring an ancient coffin to the selection. Knight Sorrow sighed speechlessly and tried to keep the ancient coffin. Finally, he kept it in the space again. Then, he went to the competition venue with Prime Bao Tutian anxiously. When they arrived at the square in the center of the city, they waited patiently with the others for the arrival of the envoys from Lu Tian Academy. The few envoys from Killer Heaven Academy had descended from the sky just as the preliminaries were about to begin. The leader was a young cultivator. He looked arrogant, but he was indeed powerful. He had the strength of a middle heavenly sovereign, which was stronger than many of the people present. Behind him were 4 cultivators who looked like old men. Among the 4 old men, 2 were upper heavenly sovereigns, and the other 2 were middle heavenly sovereigns. However, it was obvious that the young cultivator was the leader. The young cultivator had his hands behind his back. Before he could speak, one of the old men cleared his throat and pointed at the young man, saying, "There are many cultivators participating in the selection. This is Lin Dongqing, the genius disciple who joined Lu Tian Academy in the last selection. When he joined Lu Tian Academy, he was an upper earthly sovereign. Now, he's a middle heavenly sovereign. He's already the first in the last selection." Then the old man paused and continued, "If you want to join Lu Tian Academy, there are 2 ways. The first way is to choose Lin Dongqing and not lose. The other way is to fight your way into the top 10. At this moment, the challenge began. Those who want to enter Killer Heaven Academy through the first path, please step forward." Humph. After the old man finished speaking, Lin Dongqing floated down from the void and stood in the middle of the ring. He said coldly, "If you want to challenge me, you can come up to the stage immediately. But let me say this first, I will not show any mercy." This was a blatant threat. However, Lin Dongqing was one of the geniuses of Lu Tian Academy. He had the strength of a middle heavenly sovereign. Among the people below, there might be those who did not lose to Lin Dongqing in terms of potential, but in terms of strength, it was indeed very difficult for anyone to fight against him. If Knight Sorrow took out that strange ancient coffin, they should be able to fight to a draw. But he felt that there was no need to show off. Besides, the ancient coffin was so strange. If he took it out, it might trigger a backlash or attract the attention of the Rending Heaven Academy. This wasn't good. Therefore, Knight Sorrow did not step forward at all. As for the others, although there were a few who were confident in their own strength, they were only eager to give it a try. In the end, they were all persuaded by the people around them. He stood on the stage and waited for a while to make sure that no one came up to the stage. Lin Dongqing looked at the people below the stage arrogantly and said, "A bunch of trash. You don't even have the courage to step forward. You will become trash after you enter Lu Tian Academy. Remember, when you enter the academy in the future, you will all be obedient in front of me, Lin Dongqing." After saying that, he flew back into the void without giving anyone a chance to react. After he left, the cultivators who were preparing to participate in the selection were naturally unhappy. Some of them secretly made a mental note of Lin Dongqing, and were prepared to defeat him in the future when they were successful in their cultivation. He just entered Lu Tian Academy a few years earlier. What's there to show off? Night Devil, your talent is much better than his. Don't bear grudges because of some words today. After Lin Dongqing flew into the void, Bao Tutian transmitted his voice to Knight Sorrow. He was afraid that Lin Dongqing would take it to heart. Generally speaking, cultivators had a Taoist heart. If they were attacked, it was very likely that it would become a knot in their hearts. Bao Tutian was afraid that Knight Sorrow would have such a knot in his heart. Moreover, he would not be able to defeat Lin Dongqing in a short time, which would affect his future cultivation. Speaking of which, he had already regarded Knight Sorrow as one of his own. Hearing that, Knight Sorrow smiled and transmitted his voice to him. "Don't worry. In my eyes he's nothing. He won't affect me at all." "That's good. Because such a person is not worth it." Bao Tutian continued to comfort him. Knight Sorrow smiled and said, "With the ancient coffin, I'm confident that I won't be defeated on the stage. I didn't do it because I don't want to be in the limelight, so I don't have any burden in my heart." "I'm relieved to hear that. The selection is about to begin, and it will be very cruel. You have to take care of yourself. Heavenly Supreme Bao Tu said in a serious tone before patting Yi Shang's shoulder. Originally, he had only found Night Sorrow to make up the numbers. He did not expect to receive such a pleasant surprise today. He was very much looking forward to Night Sorrow's results, but he did not say it out loud. I know what you're thinking. I'll try my best to enter Lu Tian Academy. Let the city governor follow Dazzling. Night Sorrow glanced at Bao Tutian. He was one of the targets he was going to purify, so he did not treat him as someone from the foggy area. Hearing that, Bao Tutian beamed and said, It's too polite to call me the city governor. If you don't mind, just call me brother in the future. Sure. Brother Bao Tutian. Yi Shang called out casually. He didn't call him elder brother directly because he felt that it was too intimate and inappropriate. At this time, Bao Tutian was about to say something. However, at this moment, an old man from Slaughter Heaven Academy suddenly started explaining the rules of Slaughter Heaven Academy selection competition. It turned out that the selection of Lu Tian Academy was taking place in the mountains they had passed by. The rules were extremely cruel. Over 200,000 cultivators would have to go through a cruel battle, and the remaining 10 would enter Lu Tian Academy in the end. Over 200,000 cultivators, and only 10 would survive in the end. The Slaughter Heaven Academy's selection competition was really brutal. The top academy in the foggy area is indeed not a place that ordinary people can enter. Night Sorrow could not help but feel his scalp turning numb after hearing the rules. It felt like Lu Tian Academy was not selecting geniuses, but killing gods. On average, each cultivator would have to kill about 20,000 cultivators before they could enter the Slaughter Heaven Academy. This was simply enough to make one shudder in fear. Hearing that, Bao Tutian transmitted his voice to Night Sorrow and explained, That's not right. The rules were not so cruel in the past. If it were so cruel, I wouldn't have let you take part in it. Clan M. Chapter 31-35. Brother Bao Tu, you don't have to explain. I know that the Lu Tian Academy must have changed the rules at the last minute. Night Sorrow had not participated in the Lu Tian Academy selection. However, after recalling the conversation between Supremacy Bao Tu and Enling Tian, he could tell that the rules were not like this in the past. Yes. Although the previous selection was difficult, it was definitely not as cruel as this. Supreme Bao Tutian explained. He then added, How about this? Bao Tu City will give up. Only 10 out of 200,000 people will advance. It's too difficult. No need. Let's observe first. Night Sorrow said and looked at the others with Supremacy Bao Tu. At this time, the others were also in an uproar. No one had expected the rules of the Lu Tian Academy selection to be so bloody. The Lu Tian Academy elder paused for a moment. Someone immediately shouted. Why did you suddenly change the rules? Isn't this disregarding human lives? Yes. Lu Tian Academy is the #1 cultivation holy land in the foggy area. If it's not the #1 evil place, why did you make so many people bleed? Yes. Why did you treat us like we're not human? Hearing their thunderous shouts, a helpless expression appeared on the old man's face. He turned to look at Lin Dongqing. Because today's rules were made by Lin Dongqing on the way here. Lu Tian Academy's original intention was to carry out the selection as usual. However, Lin Dongqing's younger brother had amazing talent. If there were no accidents, he should be able to advance to Heavenly Supreme in the battle. It would not be a problem for him to enter the top 10. He hoped that the rules would change to glory for 10 people and ruin for the rest. This way, the rewards would all go to these 10 people. His younger brother could also get a lot of rewards because of this, and Lin Dongqing would also get a lot of rewards. I'll do it. Lin Dongqing immediately stood up after being stared at by the elder. He looked at the crowd and said, This time, not only the rules are changed. The rewards will also be changed. Only the top 10 will get the rewards. If you don't have the guts to participate, withdraw now. Lu Tian Academy doesn't need cowards like you. Do you understand? Boom. After Lin Dongqing said that, the crowd was in chaos again. It turned out that after the old man had explained the rules, everyone still had some ideas about the results. After all, this was related to the honor of many cities. But now that Lin Dongqing had changed the rules, Only the top 10 cities would be rewarded. The other cities would all be in a mess. This caused many people with average strength to have thoughts of withdrawing. After all, to them, there was simply no need to give up their lives for no reason. This isn't too good. As soon as Lin Dongqing finished speaking, the old man who had just announced the rules transmitted his voice to him. If that's the case, I'm afraid not only will a large number of cultivators withdraw from the city, but the city will also be affected. It would also affect the future luck of each city. Things will get out of hand. It's all right. The so-called providence was given to them by the Killer Heaven Academy. What can they do if we don't? Lin Dongqing did not take the old man's words to heart. After replying, he looked at the crowd and said, "Now, I announce that the selection competition this time has begun. Those who participate will enter the mountain range directly. Those who don't participate will be kicked out of the Killer Heaven Academy's qualifier forever, along with their cities." Kicked out forever? If I am kicked out forever, then I will be kicked out forever. None of us will participate. Let's see what he can do. As soon as Lin Dongqing finished speaking, many angry cultivators began to shout loudly. Many of the cultivators present chose to withdraw and not participate in the competition. Instantly, the number of cultivators who withdrew increased. At this moment, Lin Dongqing looked at his clan brother in the crowd and transmitted his voice. "Dong Hai, the rules were changed for you. You know what to do." "Don't worry, clan brother." Lin Dong Hai replied with a voice transmission and flew in the direction of the mountain range. Just as he was about to enter, he roared coldly, "All rules are fair. You bunch of cowardly trash. If you don't dare to participate, just say so. Why do you have to criticize the rules? That's right. You have no chance of entering the Killer Heaven Academy in the first place. What difference does it make whether you withdraw or not?" After Lin Dong Hai spoke, another person in his clan also followed suit. After shouting that, he immediately flew towards the mountain range. Naturally, there were more than 2 participants from the Lin clan. Soon, a few more people flew over. Seeing that there were people flying towards the mountain range, some powerful cultivators from the other large tribes who were confident in their own strength also flew over. As time went by, the commotion grew bigger and bigger. Soon, 1 to 200 cultivators flew over. It's all because you can't do it. If you have the strength, you can speak with your strength. Complaining is the most useless thing in the world. Seeing that there were about 200 cultivators flying into the mountain range, Lin Dongqing immediately smiled. The old man, who had returned to stand behind him, sighed softly. Lin Dongqing noticed the old man's sigh and snorted coldly without saying anything. As for the other cultivators present, they completely realized that complaining was useless, so they simply stopped protesting. In such an environment, some cultivators who were confident in their strength began to fly towards the mountain range. About 2 hours later, the number of cultivators who walked out was about 1,000. At this moment, there were no more cultivators flying out. Knight Sorrow felt that it was about time. He looked at Bao Tuqian and said, "Brother Bao Tuqian, if you want to achieve more, you must enter the Killer Heaven Academy. Wait for my good news here." This Night Demon. Bao Tuqian had wanted to persuade them to let it go. However, he saw that Knight Sorrow had made up his mind. He said softly, "It's useless to say anything else. Elder brother, I wish you success. When you come back, let's drink for 3 days and 3 nights. Knight Sorrow responded and flew out of the crowd towards the mountain range. Wah! There are even lower earthly sovereigns who dare to choose to participate. Lin Dongqing, who was floating in the air with his hands behind his back, saw Knight Sorrow and shouted, "Look! Even lower earthly sovereigns dare to participate. This is a real warrior. Our Killer Heaven Academy likes such unyielding geniuses." In fact, at this moment, those who dared to fly towards the mountain range were at least upper earthly sovereigns. In Lin Dongqing's opinion, Knight Sorrow was courting death. In fact, it was not only him. The other heavenly sovereigns and earthly sovereigns who gave up on the competition also felt that Knight Sorrow was being foolish. Heavenly Sovereign Enling, who was hiding in the crowd, said to the masked man beside him, "I think that Night Demon has a chance to enter the top 10. Hearing this, the masked man sneered, "More than a chance. Clan M. Chapter 31-36. The masked Heavenly Sovereign had a deep impression of the combat prowess Knight Sorrow had displayed during the battle with Heavenly Sovereign and Ling. He also knew that Knight Sorrow had the ancient coffin with him. That was something that even earthly sovereigns and heavenly sovereigns could not touch. As long as he took it out, no one in the mountain range could hurt Knight Sorrow. Therefore, there was no doubt that he would survive until the end. Therefore, the masked Heavenly Sovereign felt that as long as Knight Sorrow used the ancient coffin, he would definitely appear. Heavenly Supreme and Ling nodded and said, if he were to take out the ancient coffin, he would be chosen without a doubt. But I think that he will try his best to hide the fact that he has the ancient coffin. No one would want their secret to be exposed in front of Lu Tian Academy. Because if the Academy finds out, it will be difficult to determine who it belongs to. That's true. What you said makes sense. But I think that this Night Devil will have great achievements in the future no matter what. He gives me a very unusual feeling. Unfortunately, we have already offended him, so it's not good to let him join the organization. Heavenly Sovereign and Ling nodded and said, we can't control him indeed. But don't forget that our organization has people in the academy. As long as we report it, even if he enters Lu Tian Academy, there is a chance that he will be used by us. What we need to do is to completely control him before anyone discovers him. Let him be used by the organization. Yes. If we discover this genius, we will definitely be heavily rewarded by the organization. Besides, there is still that strange ancient coffin. I just hope that he won't use that terrifying ancient coffin in the selection this time. The masked Heavenly Sovereign continued to transmit his voice to Enling. No. This matter cannot be delayed. I will report it. You stay here and block the Night Devil's every move. Alright. Go ahead. Heavenly Sovereign and Ling said and looked in the direction of the mountain range. However, even though he was a Heavenly Sovereign, he could not see through the fog in the mountain range. After Knight Sorrow walked into the fog, he had completely lost his vision. At this time, Lin Dongqing and the 4 elders beside him took out a few bronze mirrors and looked at some of the images in the mountain range through them. Just as everyone expected, when these people entered the mountain range, they were affected by the fog. Everyone became incomparably excited. He kept looking for an opponent. Even Lin Dongqing's clan brother, Lin Donghai, had bloodshot eyes as he searched for a target. Once they discovered the presence of other cultivators, they would immediately attack. As for the other cultivators, their reactions were similar to his. They all went mad in an instant. At this moment, due to the uniqueness of the mountain range array formation, every cultivator could sense the cultivator closest to them. Therefore, the battle quickly became extremely intense. Among the more than 1,000 cultivators who had entered, none of them were simple. Other than Yi Shang, the one with the lowest cultivation was an upper earthly sovereign. Moreover, he was in a state of excitement, and the way he fought was extremely crazy. His momentum was also incomparably huge. Knight Sorrow was the last to enter the mountain range. Therefore, his battle had started relatively late. It only started after some cultivators had fought 2 or 3 rounds. His opponent was an upper earthly sovereign, the 3-eyed dire wolf. It had been stimulated by the fog and had become extremely manic. Not long after Knight Sorrow entered the mountain range, before he was affected by the fog, it suddenly rushed out to attack him. My first opponent. Good timing. Knight Sorrow was not affected by the fog, but he had already realized that his opponent's state was somewhat special. It must have been unable to withstand the impact of the fog and had become extremely ferocious. Moreover, it only knew how to use its strength in battle, and no longer paid attention to techniques. Under such circumstances, Yi Shan only needed to casually use a few of his ultimate techniques to kill him. Seeing this scene, an elder from Lu Tian Academy suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, the only lower earthly sovereign is quite powerful. He can actually kill an upper earthly sovereign so quickly. Moreover, he doesn't seem to be affected by the fog. This kind of talent is really rare. In my opinion, Dongqing, you can make an exception and recruit him into Lu Tian Academy. Elder Su, do you think that the lower earthly sovereign is qualified? You should know what it means to make an exception and recruit him into Lu Tian Academy. When Lin Dongqing heard Elder Su's words, he immediately looked at him in surprise. At the same time, he looked at Knight Sorrow in the bronze mirror. At this moment, after Knight Sorrow had killed the 3-eyed dire wolf, He had kept its spatial device. After a brief investigation, he continued to look for his next target. Although he was not affected by the fog too much, he still had an endless fighting spirit. The feeling of wanting to fight was simply unstoppable. Soon, Knight Sorrow met his next opponent. It was a female practitioner who was a half-step to Heavenly Sovereign. On the surface, this female practitioner looked similar to a woman from the human race. But after fighting with Knight Sorrow, his ears immediately changed, and a vertical eye appeared on his forehead, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. This eye looked like it contained thousands of small eyes, and it gave off an extremely evil feeling. This is a female practitioner from the Hassa clan. I heard that this female practitioner's cultivation method is extremely vicious. After defeating her opponent, she will absorb her opponent's eyes. She will also strengthen her pupil technique. This female practitioner has already cultivated the 1,000 illusion eyes and is a half-step to Heavenly Sovereign. If this lower earthly sovereign can kill her, she will definitely be recruited. She is definitely qualified to be recruited into the academy, Elder Su said as he watched the battle in front of him. Hearing this, Lin Dongqing nodded and said, "Let's finish watching this battle first." "All right," Elder Su replied. Then, he and the other elders fixed their gazes on the bronze mirror. Due to the fog's influence, the battle in the mountain range progressed very quickly. Knight Sorrow and the female practitioner from the Hassa clan had fought for less than 30 breaths, but both of them had already exhausted themselves. At this point in the battle, Knight Sorrow and the woman were almost evenly matched. At this moment, the woman snorted and said, "I didn't expect a lower earthly sovereign like you to have such strength. If you had cultivated to the upper earthly sovereign level, no one here would have been able to defeat you. However, you made a mistake by coming too early." Die. After shouting the word die, the female practitioner from the Hassa clan immediately rose into the air and released her pupil technique. 1,000 illusion eyes. After the 1,000 illusion eyes was used, the thousands of eyeballs in her vertical eye all flew out. In the air, small black holes formed. Upon closer inspection, these black holes were actually eyes, but a casual glance at them revealed that they were actually eyes. However, after a casual glance, Knight Sorrow realized that these eyes were not simple. He felt as if his spiritual soul was trembling. Clan M. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.